My name is Chinyao. I woke up in a dark cave to a beautiful woman screaming at me. She had long silver hair, snow-white skin, and blue eyes. But right now, those eyes were full of murder. She was holding a knife and coming straight for me. I screamed and tried to run, but I tripped and fell. Then I felt a sharp pain in my belly. That's when I saw it. There was a cord connecting my stomach to hers. Like an umbilical cord. She was my mother? She had just given birth to me. But she wanted to kill me. She cut the cord with her knife and came at me again, screaming, "You filthy goblin, stop right there. I'll kill you, goblin." What goblin? I looked down at my hands. Short little legs. Green skin everywhere. I touched my face, pointed ears, fangs. I was a goblin. I had been reborn as a goblin. I know what goblins are. They're the weakest monsters in fantasy worlds, even lower than slimes. They're just cannon fodder. Good for nothing except making babies. And now I was one of them. But I couldn't think about that right now. The crazy woman was still chasing me, so I ran as fast as my tiny legs could carry me and burst out of the cave into a thick forest. I was hoping to find other goblins outside, maybe a whole tribe that could protect me. But there was nothing, just trees and rabbits. She chased me to the cave entrance, but she was too weak from giving birth to keep going. I disappeared into the tall grass, and she finally gave up. She sat against the cave wall, catching her breath, and muttered that she would remember what I looked like and kill me later. Soon after, a group of soldiers in silver armor arrived. They called her Princess Avril and knelt before her. She acted like nothing had happened, ordered them to head back to the capital, and said it was time for revenge. Then they all flew away on griffins. I watched them disappear into the sky and let out a long breath. So my mother was some kind of princess. Great. I sat there looking at my little green hands and wanted to cry. How was I supposed to survive like this? The best plan would be to find a goblin tribe, but goblins eat their own kind, so even that was dangerous. I had no special powers, no cheat abilities, no status screen, nothing. Then something rustled in the grass nearby. My heart almost stopped. Right now, anything could eat me. A blue slime bounced out of the grass and jumped at me. A slime. The one thing even weaker than a goblin. I grabbed a rock and threw it, knocking the slime flat. I jumped on top of it, ready to crush its core. But the moment I touched it, I felt a warm energy flow through my hands and into my body, like something inside me switched on. The slime stopped fighting and just sat there in my little claws, completely still. After a few minutes, the warm feeling faded. The slime had actually gotten bigger. It went from the size of a bun to the size of a small cake. Its color got darker too, and it felt bouncy and firm in my hands. This was incredible. I had found something. I didn't know what it was yet, but I needed to find another slime and try again. I started searching through the grass with my short little legs, and soon I found a full-grown slime, big as a yoga ball. It saw me and bounced right at me. The full-grown slime jumped high and came crashing down on me. I rolled out of the way just in time. If a slime swallows you, it dissolves you alive. But I was only an hour old, and my body was too weak. I dodged the first attack, but got hit by the second one and went flying. Then before I could react, the slime landed right on top of me and swallowed me whole. I panicked and tried to break free, but I couldn't move. Then I noticed something strange. I wasn't suffocating and nothing was burning me. Instead, warm energy was pouring into my body through every pore. It felt cozy, like sitting in a hot spring. The slime wasn't trying to eat me either. It just sat there jiggling happily, like it was enjoying it too. I had no idea what was happening, but since I wasn't in danger, I relaxed. And then I passed out. I was only an hour old and had been running nonstop. When I woke up, the slime had spit me out. My body had actually grown bigger. I was still short, but I could feel I was stronger than before. The two slimes, the small one from earlier and the big one, were right beside me, rubbing against me like pets. I looked at the ball of warm energy sitting in my belly. Was this what leveling up felt like? But normally you have to kill monsters to get experience. I didn't kill anything. I went and found more slimes to test my theory. Every time I touched one, the warm energy flowed into me. I even let them swallow me to absorb more. After about 100 slimes, the pressure in my belly got really intense. Then I heard a cracking sound, like an eggshell breaking, and energy rushed through my whole body. The bloated feeling disappeared completely. I had leveled up. Just then, A horned rabbit jumped out of the grass and charged at me. I felt great after leveling up. Faster, stronger. I dodged its attack and grabbed it by the ears. But this time there was no warm energy at all. Instead, the rabbit kicked me with its back legs and cut me open. Blood went everywhere. I screamed and let go. The rabbit bounced at my face, but one of my big slimes slammed into it and knocked it away just in time. I was furious. Getting killed by a rabbit would be the most embarrassing death ever. I ordered my slimes to attack. Over 100 of them swarmed the rabbit, smashing into it until it collapsed, barely alive. I walked over and grabbed its horn. Still no warm energy. So it only worked on slimes? Why? Well, if I couldn't absorb its energy, I'd eat it instead. I used my goblin claws to tear off the skin and ate the meat raw. Didn't even taste bad. I guess my goblin body didn't mind raw meat. Not bad at all, actually. Then I heard voices nearby. 3 human teenagers were chasing a few slimes through the grass. One was an archer with a wooden bow who couldn't hit anything. One was a warrior with an iron sword and wooden shield. The last one was carrying 2 daggers, but was the slowest of the 3, a scout. They looked like total beginners. They cornered the slimes. The archer got ready to shoot. The warrior caught up panting like crazy, and the scout tripped and nearly stabbed herself with her own daggers. She turned out to be a girl, about 15 or 16, with freckles and a cute face. They were arguing about who was slowest and reminding each other not to mess up their first adventurer mission. I couldn't just stand by and let them kill my slimes. Those slimes were my power source. I gave the order, and over 100 slimes charged out at once. The 3 rookies were completely buried. They got bounced and smacked until they were covered in bumps and bruises, then collapsed on the ground. The slimes were about to swallow and dissolve them, but I stopped them. I wanted to test something first. I walked up to the warrior and grabbed his wrist. Nothing. No warm energy. Then I tried the archer. Same thing. Nothing. Then I walked over to the scout girl and grabbed her wrist. My whole body shook. Warm energy rushed from her hand into my body and gathered in my core. That was it. That was the feeling. I finally understood the secret. Only females could give me this power. Slimes, the scout girl, they were all female. So my way of leveling up was through contact with females. I was excited and annoyed at the same time. Sure, being able to level up through females sounded great, if I were human. But I was an ugly little goblin. What was the universe thinking? Then I noticed something new in my mind. Information that wasn't there before. It was a skill, the scout girl's skill. Something called shadow step. I could absorb not just energy, but skills too. That was incredible. The girl suddenly groaned and started to wake up. She opened her eyes, saw my big, ugly goblin face right in front of her, screamed, "Goblin," and fainted again. I didn't care. I kept absorbing her energy until there was nothing left to take, then let go of her wrist. I wondered if she would obey me now, like the slimes did. Probably not. Slimes are simple creatures that follow instinct. Humans are smart. No way a human would take orders from a goblin. Then I heard footsteps coming from the distance. Adults, moving fast. Must be their teachers coming to look for them. I didn't hesitate. I turned and ran, my army of slimes bouncing along behind me. We disappeared into the thick forest. The adult adventurers found the 3 beaten-up kids and panicked when the scout girl woke up screaming about goblins. They knew goblins travel in groups, so they grabbed the kids and got out of there fast. Meanwhile, I was hiding in the tall grass with my slimes. At my size, I could lie flat anywhere and be invisible, unless something attacked from above. Right on cue, a strange-looking eagle screeched overhead and dove straight at me, talons out. There was no time to dodge. But my slimes reacted instantly. They launched themselves at the eagle and knocked it out of the sky. I moved fast and grabbed the eagle by the neck. The familiar warm energy flowed into my body. The eagle stopped struggling immediately. Its sharp eyes went soft and gentle, and it became completely tame. I could feel the swelling pressure in my core again. Another level up was coming. Maybe I'd reach level 2. What I didn't know was what was happening back in town. The 3 kids went to the Adventurers Guild to get tested at a crystal gourd that measures your level. The warrior tested first, no change. Then the archer, nothing either. Their instructor scolded them for expecting to level up when they didn't even finish their mission. Then the scout girl, Alice, put her hands on the crystal gourd. It exploded with light. She had jumped straight to level 2. The big bearded instructor couldn't believe it. They all failed the same mission, didn't kill a single slime. Yet she leveled up? He smacked the crystal gourd a few times thinking it was broken. The warrior and archer were furious. They all joined the guild at the same time, trained together, went on the same mission. How did she level up and they didn't? It wasn't fair. Alice stared at the crystal and thought back to the forest. She remembered waking up and seeing a goblin holding her wrist, right where she felt the warm energy flowing in. Could it be because of that goblin? She wondered. Then she shook her head. No way. It must have been a coincidence. The instructor got excited thinking he had discovered a genius. He sent them back to the forest with real adventurers to kill some slimes and test again. After the hunt, Alice shot up to level 3 while the other two still hadn't even reached level 2. The whole town was buzzing. The bearded instructor had tears in his eyes. A genius. Our little town of Tim finally has a genius. I woke up feeling great. I was even taller than before, level 2 now. I tried out the shadow step skill I got from the scout girl. I pulled a bit of warm energy from my core into my legs and took a step. In a blink, I was 3 meters away. Amazing. Then my slimes came running over and swarmed me, rubbing against me like crazy. I noticed warm energy was flowing into me again. Only half as much as the first time, but enough to refill what I'd just used on Shadow Step. So I could absorb from them more than once. No wonder they kept following me around. I also realized my eyesight had gotten way better. I could see things clearly hundreds of meters away. I must have absorbed the eagle's vision when I tamed it. The eagle nuzzled my hand happily while warm energy flowed into it too, making it stronger. This was a two-way deal. I heard noise in the distance and went to check it out. Through the trees, I saw a group of adventurers fighting a huge pack of wolves, over 100 of them. The wolves were big and vicious, tearing through the humans one by one. The adventurers sent up a signal arrow asking for help. I just watched. Why would I help? I was a goblin now, not a human. I didn't have the strength anyway. If there had been a woman in the group, maybe I would have snuck in to absorb some energy. But it was all men. Not worth it. After an hour, the wolves killed every last one of them and ate the bodies. Once the wolves left, I jumped out and started looting. The dead adventurers had weapons, gear, and backpacks full of stuff. I grabbed everything I could use. Then someone shouted behind me, "You filthy goblin! You killed all these adventurers." Die, a young warrior, maybe 18 or 19, came at me with an iron sword. He thought I was part of a goblin raiding party. I used Shadow Step to dodge his first strike, and he was shocked. Goblins aren't supposed to have skills like that. He attacked again. I kept dodging, but he was too fast. His sword cut my arm and blood poured out. Then he launched a special attack. A blade of fighting energy flew straight at me. I couldn't dodge this one. My slime saved me. Dozens of them jumped out of the grass and blocked the attack. Dozens died instantly, cut to pieces. The rest charged at the warrior to buy me time. My eagle swooped down, grabbed my shoulders with its talons, and flew me out of there. The warrior was stuck dealing with the remaining slimes. He figured the eagle would just eat me anyway, so he didn't chase. He cut down every last one of my slimes. Over 100 of them. All gone. I watched it happen from the air, and my heart burned with rage. Those slimes had been with me for days. They were my companions, and now they were all dead. Then I heard a sharp whistle. An arrow came out of nowhere and punched straight through my eagle. It screamed and started falling. I cursed and fell with it, crashing through tree branches until I hit the ground. I was small enough that the branches broke my fall, so I was okay. But my eagle was dying. I looked at the arrow sticking out of its body and wanted to scream. 2 people stepped out in front of me. One was a beautiful blonde woman with blue eyes, holding a bow, the one who shot my eagle. The other was a giant man, over 2 meters tall, covered in muscle, wrapped in iron chains, carrying a massive shield. He stood there like a tower, radiating a terrifying pressure. I was in deep trouble. All I had was Shadow Step and 2 daggers I'd picked up. I'd found a sword too, but my body was too small to swing it. The blonde archer laughed at me. "This ugly little goblin wants to fight back? How fun." She handed her bow to the big guy, pulled out a short sword, and looked at me like I was a toy. "I'll play with it myself," she said. "Come on, you ugly little runt. Your courage is nice, but courage and stupidity are often the same thing," the blonde archer said, laughing at me. I knew I couldn't run. She was an archer, and distance would only make things worse. My only chance was to get close. If I could touch her, maybe I could absorb her skills and energy. That might push me to level 3. So I had to fight. I pumped energy into my legs and used Shadow Step. I vanished and reappeared behind her, slashing at her legs with my dagger. That wasn't on purpose. I was just too short to reach anything higher. She reacted fast. She was a level 10 adventurer after all. She blocked my dagger with her short sword, and the force sent me flying. I crashed hard on the ground. She looked serious now. She realized I had a real combat skill, which meant I might be a special type of goblin, the kind that could grow into a goblin champion or even a goblin king someday. That made her want to kill me even more. She charged at me, but she was mainly a ranged fighter, and her close combat wasn't perfect. I kept dodging with Shadow Step, waiting for an opening. When I found one, I threw my dagger at her. She knocked it away with her sword, but the move left her wide open. "Miss, watch out," the big guy shouted and started running toward us. But he was too slow. I used Shadow Step one more time and appeared right in front of her face. She screamed when she saw my ugly mug up close. We crashed into each other, and I grabbed her around the waist and held on tight. The moment I touched her, everything changed. Massive amounts of energy poured into my body. My core cracked through one barrier, then another. Level 3, then level 4. 2 levels in an instant. She collapsed to the ground, completely drained. But there was a strange look on her face, like she was enjoying it. The big guy finally reached us, furious. He swung his giant hand at me, but I just leveled up twice and my reflexes were sharper. I let go, jumped away, activated Shadow Step, and disappeared into the grass. He didn't chase me. He was too worried about his boss. He helped her up and asked if the goblin had done anything to her. She stood there staring in the direction I'd gone, looking confused. She'd felt it too, the energy, the warmth. And she realized she had leveled up. From level 10 to 11, just like that. Something that should have taken weeks happened in a second. She told the big guy nothing happened and ordered him to head back. I ran for miles before I found a hiding spot. I was gasping for air and my legs were sore, but I was grinning. 2 whole levels from one encounter. And I'd picked up a new skill, Rapid Shot, an archer technique that lets you fire 3 arrows in one burst. Plus my natural feel for archery had gotten way better. Now I had 2 skills, Shadow Step for dodging and Rapid Shot for attacking from a distance. My survival odds just went way up. My stomach growled. I was starving, but I didn't dare go out until dark. When night finally came and nobody had followed me, I crept out of my hiding spot. I wondered if that archer woman had noticed she leveled up too. Would she come looking for me, wanting more? The thought made me chuckle. Hunting at night was impossible. All the small animals were hiding. So I went back to where the wolves had killed those adventurers earlier. The young warrior who attacked me hadn't bothered taking the leftover gear. Broken backpacks, weapons, supplies, it was all still there. With my new level 4 strength, I gathered everything up easily and carried it all back to my cave. Back in my little cave, I dug through the backpacks I'd collected. There were wheat cakes and dried meat. Not great, but I couldn't be picky. I ate everything, drank some water, and leaned against the cave wall. Why couldn't I have been reborn as a prince with every magical talent, surrounded by beautiful girls, living the easy life? I sighed. But no, I got Goblin. The next morning, I felt amazing. I'd grown again, about 70 or 80 centimeters tall now, with the beginnings of real muscles and even 2 abs showing. Not bad for a goblin. I sorted through my loot. A bow, a quiver of arrows, some swords and shields, and a creepy tree bark mask painted with blood-red designs that looked like a demon face. There were also some food supplies and several skill books, small scrolls made of sheepskin. I got excited about the skill books, but when I opened them, they were blank. I tried pushing energy into them. Nothing happened. I guess my body couldn't learn skills the normal way, only by absorbing them from females. I did find one useful book though, a leather-bound guide called Basics of Classes and Skills. I could actually read it, probably thanks to something I inherited from my mother. It explained the whole power system of this world. Most goblins can't use fighting energy or magic. A tiny fraction can, but they almost never survive long enough to grow up. I was the exception. I could use fighting energy and absorb skills from females through contact. Both sides benefit from it. The level system was simple. Each level gives you 10 points of energy. A level 1 warrior has 10 points. Their basic skill, horizontal slash, costs 10 points, so they can only use it once. My rapid shot skill also costs 10 points and fires 3 arrows at once. I modified the bow to fit my small body using tools from one of the backpacks. Then I started practicing outside the cave. My aim was terrible at first, but with my eagle eyes, I improved fast. Right in the middle of practice, a 3-meter-tall magic bear burst out of the bushes. Apparently, this cave was its home, and it had been away chasing some adventurers for 2 days. Now it was back and furious that a goblin had moved in. The bear roared and released a wave of magical pressure. It had to be at least level 15. I turned and ran immediately. No point being brave against something that far above me. The bear chased me, ripping up a boulder and hurling it at my head. It whistled past my ear and blasted a crater in the ground in front of me. If that had hit me, I'd be paced. I got angry. I jumped off a rock, spun in midair, and fired rapid shot. 3 arrows straight at the bear. All 3 hit, but the bear's hide was so thick they barely scratched it. It just got angrier and started throwing rocks like rain. I dodged with shadow step, but flying stone chips still cut me up. I was bleeding everywhere. I had no choice but to keep running. The bear was basically cheating. Tough skin, huge strength, and ranged attacks. After a long chase through the forest, I finally lost it. I collapsed behind a boulder, gasping, almost completely out of energy. "Just wait," I muttered. "One day I'll cut off your paws and stew them." Then I felt eyes on me. I looked up and froze. 3 teenagers were standing right there, staring at me with their mouths open. I recognized them instantly, the same 3 rookies from before. The archer Greta, the warrior Wayne, and the scout Alice. "Goblin," Wayne shouted, half scared, half excited. They were out on a mission to clear slimes from some farmland, and instead they'd found a lone goblin. Easy target, they probably thought. But Alice's eyes went wide. I could see the wheels turning in her head. She'd been thinking about me for days, wondering if her sudden level-ups had something to do with the goblin that grabbed her wrist in the forest. Her instructors wouldn't let her go back to look for me. And now here I was, right in front of her. She wasn't sure I was the same goblin. We all look alike to humans. But she wanted to find out. The 3 rookies were thrilled to see me. They'd been dying to fight a goblin, but their instructors always made them stick to slimes and sewer rats. Now here was a lone goblin right in front of them. "Kill it." Wayne laughed and charged at me with his shield up. "No, it's mine." Greta drew his bow and fired an arrow at me. But Alice screamed, "Don't," and used shadow step to knock the arrow away. She couldn't stop Wayne, though. He reached me and swung his sword down hard. There was a loud bang, and Wayne went flying backward, crashing to the ground. All 3 of them stared at me in shock. I'd recovered my strength by now. I was level 4. These kids were nothing to me. Wayne couldn't believe a goblin had knocked him back. He jumped up screaming and charged again. I sidestepped him easily and kicked him in the rear. He slammed face first into the rock wall and went dizzy. Greta started shooting arrows while yelling at Alice to attack me up close. Alice looked torn. She wanted to test her theory about me, not kill me. But she couldn't just stand there, so she used shadow step and came at me from the side. I caught Greta's arrow out of the air with one hand, then used it to block Alice's dagger. They were both stunned. I grabbed Alice's wrist, tripped her, and pinned her down. The moment I touched her, energy exploded into my body. I shot straight to level 5. Alice felt it too, that warm, comfortable rush. Her whole body went limp, and she completely lost her will to fight. Greta was shaking so badly, he could barely hold his bow. They were just kids after all. Now they understood why their instructors wouldn't let them hunt goblins. I stood up and gave Greta a mocking little "come here" gesture with my finger. He got furious and fired rapid shot, 3 arrows at once. I fired rapid shot right back. My 3 arrows knocked all 3 of his out of the air. His jaw dropped. A goblin using archer skills? Better and faster than him. Meanwhile, Wayne had woken up behind me. He crept forward and swung his sword at my head. But my goblin ears are long. I heard everything. I used shadow step, dodged the swing, and my dagger found the softest spot at my height, which happened to be his backside. Wayne let out the most horrible scream I've ever heard. Blood poured everywhere. Look, I didn't do it on purpose. I'm just short. At my height, that's the easiest target. What else was I supposed to stab? Greta saw all the blood and screamed like a little girl. He turned and ran. I drew my bow, took aim, and put an arrow right in his rear end too. He dropped like a rock, howling. Then I turned to Alice. She'd recovered from the energy transfer, but was terrified by all the blood. She pressed herself against the rock wall, shaking. Don't come any closer. I grinned at her, but inside I was actually thinking hard. Should I kill her? That seemed like a waste. She was a good source of power. Should I take her with me? Too dangerous. Humans would come looking for her, and monsters would target her. Before I could decide, I heard footsteps. A crowd of farmers burst out of the trees carrying pitchforks and hoes. They saw two boys lying in pools of blood and a goblin cornering a girl. They charged straight at me. I didn't hesitate. I turned and ran. Fighting a mob of angry farmers? No thanks. One spit from each of them would drown me. The farmers didn't chase me. They loaded the two boys onto a cart and rushed them back to the village. Everyone who saw the wounds on their backsides winced and instinctively clenched. That goblin, they said, was truly evil. Why did it keep going for that spot? After I ran off, the villagers loaded Wayne and Greta onto a cart and rushed them toward town. The old village doctor took one look at their wounds and shook his head. Too serious. They needed expensive healing potions or they'd bleed to death. Alice finally snapped out of whatever daze she was in and told them to head for Timtown. But they barely made it out of the village before they ran into a group of adventurers on the road. These weren't rookies. You could tell by their gear and the way they carried themselves. The leader was a swordsman with a shield on his back. He checked the two boys and winced at where the wounds were. He said even if the bleeding stopped, infection would probably finish them off. Healing potions were too expensive for beginners like them. Alice started crying, realizing how bad things really were. But the swordsman smiled and called over their healer, a green-haired girl named Trilims who carried a staff and wore a pointed hat. She had a completely blank expression, like she'd never felt an emotion in her life. She wouldn't heal anyone for free, though. She stuck out her hand and waited until the swordsman paid her a bag of silver coins. Then she cast a spell. Green light poured from her staff onto Wayne and Greta, and their wounds closed up in seconds. Better than any potion. The two boys jumped off the cart and knelt before their saviors. Trilims just said, "I was paid to do a job," and walked away without a trace of warmth. The three rookies wanted to tag along with the adventurer party, but the swordsman turned them down. Their mission was too dangerous. So the kids headed back to town. Alice went reluctantly. She didn't want to leave the forest. She wanted to find me again. After experiencing free level-ups just from being touched, she couldn't bring herself to go back to grinding the hard way. As for that adventurer party, they entered the deep forest and started collecting samples, tapping on trees, studying things. Small monsters like slimes and horned rabbits stayed far away from them. Even the wolf pack only dared circle at a distance. Their archer used a farsight skill to scout the wolves. The swordsman wanted to go kill them, but Trilims shut him down. Their mission didn't allow side trips unless they were attacked first. Then the swordsman mentioned what the kids had told them about the goblin attack. He said there must be a goblin nest or tribe nearby, and they should find and destroy it. This was a team with serious experience. No guild badges, no rank markings. Impossible to tell how strong they were just by looking. But every creature in the forest could sense it and kept its distance. Their mission had something to do with goblins. I had no idea any of this was happening. I was sitting somewhere in the forest, trying to figure out how to get stronger and survive another day. Deep in the Croft Forest, I spent a few days in my little cave making myself some proper gear. I used a needle and scissors to sew together a fitted outfit from scraps, plus simple leather armor and a helmet. I looked a bit more respectable, but I was still just a goblin. I packed up my bow, arrows, 2 daggers, a wooden shield, and 2 leather backpacks filled with food and herbs I'd figured out how to use. Then I set out to find a goblin tribe. If I could become a tribe leader, I'd be much safer. I searched for days with no luck. I did pick up some slimes and horned rabbits along the way. Weak little followers, but at least I wasn't alone. Then one of my horned rabbits came running back, squeaking excitedly. It had found goblins. My heart jumped. Finally. But when I pushed through the grass, I saw something horrible. A medium-sized goblin settlement, maybe 300 goblins, was burning. Bodies everywhere, blood soaking the ground. Tents and wooden huts were on fire. A group of human adventurers stood in the middle of it all, watching the flames with cold eyes. I cursed under my breath and turned to run. Well, there's one more. Almost missed you. A voice whispered right next to my ear. I threw myself to the ground just as something razor-sharp sliced past my throat. If I'd been a split second slower, I'd be dead. It still left a shallow cut on my neck. A tall woman in a tight black outfit appeared out of thin air. She was an assassin. Curves, long legs, face covered by a mask, holding 2 gleaming spikes. She couldn't believe I'd dodged her attack. She struck again. I rolled backward just in time. Being small actually helped. Lying flat on the ground, I was in her blind spot. She was too tall to aim down at me easily. She threw one of her spikes at my forehead, certain I couldn't dodge this time. But my horned rabbits leaped out and took the hit for me, 2 of them getting skewered. While the assassin stood there confused about why small monsters were protecting a goblin, I jumped up and ran with everything I had, pushing Shadow Step to its absolute limit. She tried to chase, but my slimes poured out of the grass and crashed into her. She cut them all down easily, then more horned rabbits charged out. She killed those too, but by then I was long gone. Interesting little goblin, she muttered. But tracking is my specialty. Before she could follow, her teammates called her back. It was the same adventurer party that had healed Wayne and Greta, the swordsman, the pretty archer, the emotionless healer Trilems, and now this assassin named Kamaya. The swordsman told her to forget about one goblin. Their mission was to find and destroy every goblin tribe in the forest. One runaway didn't matter. Kamaya complained that the goblin was strange. It could command slimes and horned rabbits. The archer didn't believe her. Goblins can't control other monsters. He accused her of making excuses. Their leader shut down the argument. Rest tonight. Continue the hunt tomorrow. Kill every last goblin. I ran over 10 kilometers before I dared stop. My wounds had reopened, blood was everywhere, and I'd lost most of my gear during the escape. All I had left was a bow, a few arrows, and some healing herbs. Why did this beginner area have such powerful adventurers? A whole tribe of 300 goblins wiped out like nothing. I wouldn't last a second against them. I had to get out of here. Fast. I patched myself up and started running again. But before I could catch my breath, I heard growling in the darkness. Green eyes glowed all around me. Wolves. Dozens of them. Are you kidding me? I activated Shadow Step, jumped off a tree trunk, and scrambled up into the branches. Several wolves leaped after me and nearly bit my rear end off. I crouched on a branch, wiping cold sweat from my forehead. Below me, the wolves circled the tree. They weren't leaving. Now what? I sat up in the tree, watching the wolves circle below. They tried jumping up, but the tree was too tall. I relaxed a little and started eating my wheat cakes. I even tossed a piece down just to mess with them. Come up here if you can, I laughed. Bad idea. The wolves started gnawing at the tree trunk. Wood chips flew everywhere. These animals were way too smart. I grabbed my bow and shot one wolf dead. But when I fired 3 more arrows, the rest dodged easily. The tree was shaking now, about to fall. I used Shadow Step to leap to another tree. The wolves stood there confused for a second. Then the pack leader howled, and they all ran to the new tree and started chewing again. I jumped to a 3rd tree. The lead wolf was spinning in circles, frustrated. I was winning the waiting game. Then suddenly, every wolf froze and bolted. I thought they'd given up. 2 seconds of happiness. Then I smelled something awful behind me. A massive mouth full of fangs shot at me like lightning. I twisted just in time, but a fang ripped a long gash down my arm. Blood poured out everywhere. I fell out of the tree and slammed into the ground. Looking up, I saw a giant python, over 10 meters long, lunging straight at me. My left arm was going numb. If I didn't end this fast, I was dead. I poured every bit of energy into Shadow Step, dodged the snake's strike, ran up a tree trunk, and flipped myself onto its head. I drove my dagger into its eye with half my remaining power, then scrambled its brain. The python screamed, reared up, crashed down, twitched twice, and died. I leaned against its body gasping. My arm was a mess. I pulled out a sewing needle from my toolkit and stitched the wound shut myself, fighting through the pain. I smeared herbs on it and wrapped it up. Then everything went black. I woke up being carried. A group of goblins was hauling me along, chattering happily. The dead python was being dragged behind us. Our hero is awake, one of them shouted. They all gathered around and knelt before me. They'd found me unconscious next to the python I'd killed, and they were amazed. A goblin that could kill a giant python alone? They wanted me as their leader immediately. I looked at my arm. They'd rebandaged it with some herbs they said were the main ingredient in healing potions. The wound was already half healed. These goblins had saved my life. "Where's your nest?" I asked. No point being modest. If they wanted a leader, I'd take the job. "Yes, Chief." They carried me back to their nest, a small cave with only about 20 goblins. Their old leader, Gobuji, surrendered his position the moment he saw me. He was convinced that with a warrior like me in charge, their tribe could become the strongest in the area. Inside the cave, Gobuji showed me 2 human girls tied up in the back, about 15 or 16 years old. They were filthy and miserable. He offered them to me for breeding purposes, saying my offspring would surely be talented. I felt sick looking at them. "Not now. Wait until I'm healed," I said, just to shut him up. "What's your name, Chief?" Gobuji asked. "So we can sing of your great deeds. Call me Gobiao," I said. "What a wonderful name. Enough. I need rest. Go find more of those healing herbs so I recover faster." "Yes, Chief." After they left, I collapsed onto a pile of animal skins, ate a little, and passed out. Somewhere else in the Croft Forest, every goblin nest and tribe was being slaughtered. That powerful adventurer team was tearing through them all, one by one. When I woke up, my body felt a bit better. Gobuji and the others had brought back more healing herbs, but they'd also brought some wounded goblins from other tribes. Their settlements had been destroyed by human adventurers. I remembered the assassin woman from the other night. It had to be the same team. They were hunting goblins specifically, and being near other goblins made me a bigger target. I needed to get stronger, fast. I looked over at the 2 human girls tied up in the cave. I walked over and grabbed their wrists. The moment I touched them, energy rushed into my body. Their eyes went wide. They could feel power flowing into them too. I shot up to level 6, and even the wound on my arm healed completely. Now I had 60 points of energy, enough for 6 shadow steps and 6 rapid shots. Not bad, but I still had no close combat skill. I needed to find a female warrior. "Chief, we're back. Look what we brought." Gobuji's voice came from outside. I walked out and saw my goblins carrying 2 female adventurers, tied up tight. One was a warrior, the other an archer. Perfect. I grabbed their wrists and drained their energy. I rocketed to level 8 and picked up 2 new skills, the warrior's charge and the archer's farsight. Farsight combined with the eagle vision I already had, letting me see an ant clearly from 1,000 meters away. I told the goblins to guard all 4 women. I could absorb from them again tomorrow and maybe hit level 10. Then I headed into the forest alone. With my enhanced vision, I spotted a massive slime nest, thousands of them. I dove in and started absorbing. At my current level, draining a slime took only a second instead of minutes. Each one gave barely any energy, but every little bit counted. Hundreds of slimes fell under my control. Then I kept going. I killed every male monster I found and let the slimes eat them. Every female monster I grabbed and absorbed energy from. Each one that felt my power joined my army willingly. In half a day, my force had grown to over 1,000. Slimes, horned rabbits, magic wolves, even a small magic bear. None of these creatures had enough intelligence to resist my ability. By the time I marched back to the goblin nest, I was level 9 with over 2,000 monsters following me. The goblins stared at me like I was a god. Their new chief was something else entirely. The adventurer team was getting closer. They'd been searching the forest for goblins and noticed something strange. There were almost no monsters in the area anymore. No slimes, no goblins, nothing. They didn't realize it was because I'd already gathered them all. Their archers spotted some of my goblins gathering herbs on a trail. They followed them quietly, planning to find our nest and destroy it like they'd done to every other goblin settlement. When the warrior Carlos burst out of the trees, he froze. In front of him were over 2,000 monsters, my entire army. The assassin Kamaya came out next, and her jaw dropped too. The archer Ronald scolded them for rushing in without listening to his warning. They argued about what to do. 2,000 monsters was a lot, even if they were all low level. The smart move was to retreat and come back later. They were about to leave when the big fist fighter, Theodore, charged straight into the horde with a crazy laugh. He slammed his fist into the ground, and the earth cracked open. Dozens of my monsters exploded into red mist with one punch. Finally, a real fight, he roared, smashing everything around him. After that, the others had no choice. Carlos used his charge skill and plowed through my army like a cannonball. Ronald shot one arrow into the sky, and it split into over a dozen, each one piercing through multiple monsters. It was a massacre. 5 adventurers against 2,000 creatures, and they weren't even breaking a sweat. My slimes, rabbits, wolves, all dying by the hundreds. Only the bigger beasts like magic wolves and the bear could hold them off for a few seconds. I watched from inside the nest, my stomach sinking. They'd arrived way sooner than I expected, and they were even stronger than I'd thought, level 20 at least. I ordered Gobuji and the goblins to climb to the mountaintop where we'd prepared boulders tied to vines, ready to push down on attackers. I climbed up too. From the high ground, I had a clear view of the battlefield. The fist fighter Theodore was the most dangerous, charging through my army like a tank. I drew my bow, aimed carefully, and fired rapid shot. 3 arrows, all aimed at the same point. Theodore heard them coming and spun around, punching the first arrow to pieces. But it used up all his force. The second arrow hit his fist and knocked him off balance. His eyes went wide with shock. The third arrow was already at his face. Help him! The arrow punched straight through his skull. He dropped dead. Everything froze after my arrow went through the fist fighter's skull. Nobody could believe it. The warrior Carlos screamed and plowed through my monsters to reach the body. He wanted the healer to save him, but one look at the shattered skull told him it was hopeless. Only a high-level resurrection spell could fix that. Carlos was furious. They were all level 20 adventurers, here in a beginner zone, and they'd just lost a teammate. He couldn't accept that a goblin had done it. He actually turned and accused his own archer, Ronald, of killing Theodore. Ronald exploded. Are you insane? Why would I kill my own teammate? Use your brain. Ronald used farsight and scanned the area. He spotted me on the mountaintop. There's an archer up there. It's a goblin. Carlos still couldn't believe a goblin could kill a level 20 fighter. But before they could argue more, I fired another rapid shot, 3 arrows straight at them. This time they were ready. Carlos blocked all 3 with his shield, but the force actually pushed him back a step. His eyes went wide. That's the rapid shot skill, he shouted. Ronald was even more shocked. He'd seen clearly. A goblin had just used a human archer technique. That should be impossible. I didn't stick around to celebrate. I'd gotten lucky the first time because Theodore was careless. That wouldn't happen again. The moment I fired my second volley, I turned and ran. Ronald fired back. His arrows blasted 3 massive holes in the mountaintop. Goblins who hadn't escaped in time were turned to chunks of meat. Blood covered everything. But the falling rocks blocked Carlos's path up the mountain, buying me a few seconds. Running away is what I do best. Shadow step, small body, dense forest. I vanished. Carlos was losing his mind. He hacked through every monster in his way, but I was already gone. Kamaya the assassin broke free from the wolves she was fighting and came after me. She was fast, terrifyingly fast. But at level 10, my shadow step had gotten much better. She couldn't quite catch up at first. Then she recognized what I was using. That's shadow step? A scout technique. She pushed herself harder and started closing the gap. I heard her behind me and spun around, firing 3 arrows. She was ready this time. She slashed all 3 out of the air with her spikes. Then she appeared right beside me and forced me to stop. Nowhere left to run, she sneered. Who would have thought we'd actually find the target? Die. She thrust her spike at me. I knew I couldn't dodge, so I didn't try. The spike punched straight through my shoulder and pinned me to a tree. The pain was blinding, but I clenched my jaw and didn't scream. That surprised her. Tough little goblin, she laughed, then started twisting the spike inside my flesh, grinding deeper and deeper until the whole blade was buried in my body. So this is what the client paid all that money for, she said. Someone hired us to kill every goblin in this forest, and the real target must be you. A goblin that knows human skills. If you grow up, you'll be a disaster for humanity. So that was it. Someone had specifically put out a contract to find and kill me. That's why these high-level adventurers were in a beginner zone slaughtering every goblin tribe. Don't worry, she said, her face twisted with rage. I won't kill you quickly. I'm going to tear you apart piece by piece, for Theodore. I was sweating, bleeding, pinned to a tree. But I looked at her snarling face and started laughing. If you think this is enough to kill me, you're dead wrong. Oh, really? Show me what you've got. Gladly. I shot my hand out and grabbed her wrist. Kamaya opened her mouth to mock me. Then her eyes went wide with shock. Kamaya's eyes went wide the moment I grabbed her wrist. She felt pure energy flooding through her body. At first she thought it was some kind of trick, but then she realized it was real, clean, powerful fighting energy. She just stood there, stunned. And while she was frozen, I was draining everything I could from her. My core filled up instantly. Level 10 to 11. Then 12. 2 new skill orbs entered my body, assassin techniques. High-level people were on a whole different level. The amount of energy I got from her was massive. Kamaya was benefiting too. She'd been stuck at mid-level 20 for a while, and suddenly her experience bar filled up completely. She leveled up to 21, right there on the spot. The moment the energy flow stopped, I kicked her in the chest with both feet. She flew back 2 or 3 meters and crashed to the ground. The spike ripped out of my shoulder as she went. "You filthy goblin," she screamed. But I was already gone. At level 12, my body had fully recovered. Even the hole in my shoulder sealed up in seconds. I activated my new assassin skill, Stealth Breath, which made my presence nearly invisible. Combined with Shadow Step, I was practically teleporting. My body flickered and appeared dozens of meters away in an instant. Kamaya couldn't even lock onto me. She stood there staring, slowly realizing what had just happened. Her teammates caught up. Carlos demanded to know how she'd let a goblin escape. She fired back that if a warrior and an archer stronger than her couldn't stop me, why would she be any different? Then Trilums noticed something. "Did you level up?" The others looked at Kamaya and felt it too. Her energy was noticeably stronger than theirs. She'd reached level 21, the first in their group to do so. She played it cool. It just happened while I was chasing the goblin. No idea why. She didn't tell them the truth. She kept what happened between us a secret. They decided to head back to Tim Town. Theodore was dead, and they couldn't leave his body in the wilderness. They'd need to find a replacement before continuing the mission. I ran for dozens of kilometers before I finally stopped. I found a tiny cave, crawled inside, and blocked the entrance with rocks. Only then did I dare lie down and breathe. I ate my last wheat cakes and dried meat, then passed out. What I didn't know was that back in the capital of the Star Glory Empire, my so-called mother, Princess Avril, the silver-haired woman who tried to kill me the day I was born, was sitting in a garden full of flowers, looking beautiful and terrifying at the same time. A trembling servant brought her news. The adventurer team had returned to Tim Town with a dead member. Avril's face turned to ice. They're level 20 adventurers, sent to a beginner town, and one of them died? Worthless. She gave new orders. Go to Tim Town personally. Post a bounty at the Adventurers Guild. 1 silver coin for every goblin killed. If one team couldn't handle it, mobilize everyone. Every single goblin in the Croft Forest had to die. She wanted me dead, and she was willing to burn down the entire forest to make it happen. I woke up feeling amazing. I'd grown to 1.2 meters tall now, practically a giant for a goblin. My muscles were filling out nicely, and my energy reserves had hit 120 points. That meant 12 uses of any basic skill. I had a solid collection too. Stealth Breath and Pierce from the Assassin, Charge from the Warrior, Rapid Shot and Farsight from the Archer, and Shadow Step from the Scout. I had no bow anymore, but my 2 daggers would do just fine. At level 12 in a beginner zone, I could handle most threats. But those 4 adventurers would be back for revenge, so I couldn't waste time. I crawled out of my cave, stretched until my joints popped, and spun my daggers in my hands. Felt good. Then I heard noise up ahead. I activated Farsight and saw a pack of magic wolves tearing into a group of goblins. The goblins had weapons, but were getting slaughtered. The Wolf King was huge, 2 meters tall at the shoulder, and it could actually talk. "You worthless goblins. You think you deserve this land? Today we eat every last one of you." A talking wolf meant at least level 10. Perfect. Time to test my new strength. I activated Stealth Breath and Shadow Step, appearing in the middle of the battlefield like a ghost. My dagger slashed at the Wolf King's throat. It sensed the danger at the last second and rolled away. I only cut off a patch of fur. Who dares attack me? It turned and saw me. A goblin. It was stunned for a second, then furious. It called 2 wolves over for backup. They rushed me, but I was way too fast now. 2 flashes of my blade, and both wolves dropped with their throats cut, blood gurgling out. The Wolf King's eyes went wide with fear. It tried to keep its distance, using its longer reach with claws and fangs. Smart move, my daggers were short. But I had an answer for that. I activated charge and rocketed straight at it like a missile. The Wolf King recognized the skill instantly. That's a human technique. How can a goblin? Too late. My dagger punched into its throat, and I twisted it inside. The Wolf King screamed and tried to bite me, but I was already gone, circling around, carving bloody lines across its body from every angle. It called for help. A dozen wolves charged in. I cut through all of them in seconds, flashing between them, leaving trails of blood. They collapsed, twitching, and went still. I turned back to the Wolf King. I surrender. Spare me, I didn't need it. One flash of movement, and my dagger sank into its forehead, straight into the brain. The king toppled like a falling tree. Every wolf and goblin on the battlefield stood frozen, staring at me. I got to work immediately. I touched every remaining wolf to check. Male or female. Males got killed. Females I absorbed energy from. And the moment they felt my power, they dropped to the ground, tails wagging like fans, completely loyal. The goblins fell to their knees. A hero. Our people finally have a hero. Please be our leader. Same routine as before. I accepted without hesitation. Clean up the battlefield. Strip all the wolf hides and bring them back, I ordered. Then I pointed at the female wolves. You're our mounts now. Understood. Their tails wagged even harder. I jumped onto one of them, and the moment I sat down, waves of fighting energy surged into my body, riding and leveling up at the same time. Not bad at all. While I was out in the forest getting stronger, things were happening back in Tim Town that I knew nothing about. The Adventurers Guild in Tim Town was a busy place. The main hall was always full of adventurers picking missions off the board. The guild evaluated jobs on a 1 to 10-star difficulty scale, took a 20% cut, and paid the rest to whoever completed the task. Tim Town was officially a beginner zone. Only adventurers under level 10 were supposed to hunt here. Higher levels needed special permission. The guild master was a big, bearded man named Vibru. He'd been unhappy ever since that level 20 team showed up with royal letters demanding to kill every goblin in the forest. Goblins were annoying, sure, but they were perfect training targets for new adventurers. Weak enough to fight, smart enough to be a real challenge. Kill them all, and how was he supposed to train his recruits? The guild doors swung open, and the 4 surviving adventurers walked in, carrying a heavy sack. Every adventurer in the hall started whispering. Was that a body? Couldn't be. These were level 20 fighters in a beginner zone. Nothing here could kill them. Carlos looked ready to draw his sword on the gossips, but Ronald grabbed his wrist. Not now. Vibra took one look at their faces and the shape of the sack and rushed them to the back room. When they opened it, Theodore's body was inside, skull cracked open, face destroyed. What happened? Vibra's beard was trembling. Nobody wanted to explain. Carlos sat down and said nothing. Ronald couldn't bring himself to talk. Finally, Trilem spoke in her usual emotionless voice. We were attacked by a strange goblin that had gathered over 2,000 monsters. It used archer skills. We underestimated it, and this happened. Vibra stared at her. This is a joke, right? A very unfunny joke. Kamaya tried next, dead serious. We're not joking, Chairman. This is real. You expect me to believe a goblin killed a level 20 fighter? I know every creature in that forest. Nothing there can touch you people. This is ridiculous. Ronald swore on his honor. Vibra still wouldn't buy it. He told them to cremate their teammate and they'd talk later, then rushed out because an important visitor had arrived. The 4 of them looked at each other and sighed. They knew nobody would believe them. A goblin killing a level 20 adventurer. It sounded insane even to them. Out in the main hall, Vibru greeted his VIP. Carliel, the secretary to the head of the kingdom's Adventurers Guild branch, escorting a mysterious figure. Vibru turned on all his charm, sweating nervously. If Carliel found out a level 20 adventurer had died in his beginner zone, he'd lose his performance rating for sure. Back in Tim Town, things were getting worse for me without my knowing. In the guild master's office, Vibru was meeting with an important visitor. Carliel, the secretary to the kingdom's guild president, had brought a mysterious woman from the Star Glory Empire. When the woman pulled back her hood, Vibru's jaw dropped. She was stunning, golden hair like a waterfall, emerald green eyes, flawless skin. She looked like a goddess stepped out of a painting. Her name was Adriana, and her request was simple, Kill every goblin in the Craw Forest. 1 silver coin per goblin. Special types pay double. The stronger the goblin, the higher the price. Any adventurer could join the hunt. Just bring back a goblin's left ear for payment. Vibru's face twitched. More goblin hunters? He mentioned the team that had already come through. Adriana dismissed them coldly. They failed. That's why I'm here. She told Vibru to come up with a proper excuse for the mass hunt. He agreed immediately. He wasn't about to argue with someone backed by the Star Glory Empire's money and power. Meanwhile, I had no idea any of this was happening. I was deep in the forest, celebrating with my new goblin tribe. Over 100 goblins were feasting on roasted meat and drinking ale they'd found somewhere. The wolves sat among them peacefully. Everyone was thrilled about their new leader. Me, the goblin who killed a wolf king. Chief, should we attack a human village? One of them asked excitedly. With our wolves, we can't lose. We'll capture everyone. Eat the men, keep the women for breeding. I rolled my eyes. Why settle for a village? If we're going to fight humans, we should aim for a whole town. More people there, right? More women too. They went crazy cheering. They couldn't tell I was being sarcastic. But we're not strong enough yet, one said. Human adventurers and soldiers would crush us, obviously. So first we conquer other goblin tribes and combine our forces. Brilliant. Chief is so smart. Long live the chief. They all raised their fists and howled. Even the wolves joined in. I covered my face with one hand, then bumped into my own huge goblin nose. I still couldn't get used to this ugly body. I didn't even dare look in a mirror. The next morning, I got up early and grabbed every female wolf by the paw to absorb energy. They whimpered happily. Getting stronger felt good for them too. After going through all of them, I hit level 13. Taller again, with over 130 points of energy to work with. One of my goblins told me there was a tribe of 300 goblins not far away, and they had no wolves. Easy target. I didn't hesitate. I jumped on a wolf's back and led my army down the narrow trail. Along the way, every female monster we passed got grabbed and drained. Even the tiny slimes that barely gave me anything. A mosquito's leg is still meat. Every female I touched joined my army willingly. By the time we reached the other tribe's territory, my force had grown to over 3,000 creatures. The goblins behind me were cheering and waving their weapons, already dreaming of ruling the whole forest. A scout rode back on a wolf to report. Chief, the goblin tribe is just ahead. They spotted us and set up defenses. I glanced back at my massive, noisy, dust cloud-raising army. Of course they spotted us. Hard to miss. What do? I said. We attack. Anyone who resists dies. We reached the goblin tribe's territory. 300 goblins stood ready behind wooden walls, armed with weapons, bows drawn. They'd heard about all the goblin tribes being destroyed lately, so they were on high alert. When they saw my army of 3,000 creatures pouring out of the forest, their green faces turned even greener. Their chief, Goblin, was big for a goblin, 2 heads taller than normal, carrying a spiked club and wooden shield, wearing leather armor. He couldn't understand how a fellow goblin could command this many monsters. Open your gates and surrender, I shouted from my wolf's back. Serve under me, and I'll spare your lives. He didn't believe me. He thought there must be some bigger monster behind the scenes controlling everything. He demanded to see my real boss. I laughed. How about this? Come down and fight me one-on-one. If I win, your whole tribe follows me. If I lose, I'll follow you, and all my monsters are yours. That got his attention. He strutted out through the gates like he owned the world, swinging his spiked club. Get off the wolf and fight fair, he growled. I jumped down, pulled out my short sword and shield, and walked right up to him. If you can last one round against me, I'll admit defeat. He charged at me screaming. I used charge right back. He flew through the air like a cannonball, smashed through his own gate, and landed in a bloody heap on the other side. He wasn't getting up from that. Every goblin on both sides stood frozen. Now do you see? I warned. Kneel. 300 goblins dropped their weapons and hit the ground. My side erupted in cheers, goblins howling, wolves howling, rabbits squeaking. Even my slimes tried to join in with little wahoo wahoo sounds. They were more cute than scary, so I told them to stop. I didn't let success go to my head. I ordered everyone to spread out through the forest, set traps everywhere, kill every male monster they found, bring back every female one. Then I went to the chief's chamber. Inside were over a dozen human women chained up, ranging from about 10 years old to 40 or 50. They were filthy, covered in scars, faces completely blank from the abuse they'd endured. I needed to survive. Those adventurers were coming back for me, and I had to be strong enough to face them. I grabbed the women's wrists and absorbed their energy. Their dead eyes suddenly went wide with shock as they felt power flowing into their bodies too. I hit level 14. I even picked up a new skill from one of them. She turned out to be a captured adventurer. I got the warrior technique, horizontal slash. She stared at me in disbelief. Just from that brief contact, her fighting energy had partially restored. She was wondering if maybe I was a human in disguise, sent to rescue her. I didn't explain. I walked away and started circulating energy through my body. The energy in my core had thickened into a thin mist now, swirling around inside me. Meanwhile, back in Tim Town, Adriana's bounty had been posted at the guild. 1 silver coin per goblin left ear. The low-level adventurers went absolutely crazy. Solo hunters started forming teams. Groups poured into the Croft Forest, hunting goblins like their lives depended on it. 1 silver coin could feed an adventurer for a week. Kill a few goblins a day, and you could live comfortably for a month. Sorry, little guys, the adventurers said as they marched into the forest. Don't know who you made angry, but we need the money. Every goblin in the forest was now a target. The Croft Forest had turned into a war zone. Over 1,000 adventurers flooded in, all hunting goblins for the bounty. Weak ones, strong ones, total beginners, they all came. Fixed goblin settlements that nobody used to dare touch were getting wiped out one after another. The adventurers would kill the goblins, cut off their left ears for the silver coins, and leave everything else behind. Any monster that got in their way died too. That magic bear I'd run from before? A dozen arrows punched through it like nothing. The adventurers carved it up, split the parts based on who contributed most, and kept moving. But I'd been preparing. I'd cleared out most of the small monsters from my territory and set up ambushes. When one adventurer team of 5 noticed how quiet things were, no rabbits, no birds, not even insects, they got suspicious and drew their weapons. Good instincts, but not good enough. My goblins opened fire from the trees. A rain of arrows came down on them. Their shield bearer slammed his giant shield into the ground and blocked everything with a wall of energy. Then they got excited. More goblins meant more silver coins. They charged in. Their warrior cut 3 of my goblins in half with 1 swing. Their archer climbed a tree and started picking off goblins one by one. Their assassin appeared from nowhere and slit 3 more throats. My surviving goblins ran, just like I'd told them to. The adventurers chased, hungry for more ears. They burst through the grass and found me standing there with a short sword and shield. The warrior laughed and swung his horizontal slash at me. I didn't dodge. I charged straight at him using the warrior's charge skill. His attack hit my shield and did nothing. His eyes went wide. A goblin using a warrior technique. Before he could call for help, I vanished. Shadow step plus stealth breath. I appeared behind him like a ghost and drove my dagger through his lower back, clean through to the other side. He screamed and dropped to his knees. Then I brought my short sword around and cut his throat. Blood sprayed out like a fountain. He fell dead. I disappeared before his teammates arrived. When they found the body, they were shocked and confused. The wound looked like it came from an assassin's spike. They assumed another human adventurer had attacked their friend, a serious crime in a beginner zone. They grabbed the body and rushed back to report it, completely forgetting about hunting goblins. I watched them leave and shook my head. Running already? Boring. But the fight taught me something important. At level 14, my level was higher than any adventurer in this beginner zone. But a goblin's body was naturally weaker than a human's. Even at 14, I could only match a level 10 human in raw strength. My real advantage was having skills from multiple classes: warrior, archer, scout, assassin. I could switch fighting styles instantly and catch people completely off guard. That was how I'd survive this. The forest had turned into a hunting ground, but I was the one doing the real hunting. I'd come up with a new strategy. Instead of fighting adventurers head-on, I'd make them fight each other. Here's how it worked. I sent my goblins out as bait near a group of adventurers. When they charged after the goblins, my monsters, slimes, horned rabbits, wolves, swarmed them to slow them down. The adventurers weren't scared of weak monsters, but the creatures bought me time and blocked their movement. Then, while they were distracted fighting through the horde and chasing my goblins, I fired rapid shot from hiding. 3 arrows, 3 headshots. 3 adventurers dropped dead instantly. The survivors panicked. They recognized rapid shot as a human skill. They assumed another adventurer team had attacked them. So when they spotted a different group of adventurers nearby, they went straight at them, furious, accusing them of murder. The second group denied everything, which just made things worse. Words turned to shoving, then weapons came out. When one of the second group's archers fired rapid shot at some fleeing goblins, my goblins, running on my orders, the first group exploded. You just used the same skill that killed our friends. Both sides went at each other with everything they had. I sat on my wolf in the bushes, grinning. My goblins watched with me, barely containing their excitement. This was exactly what I wanted. Let the humans destroy each other, then clean up what's left. The fight ended with everyone wounded and exhausted. The 2 team leaders called a truce and decided to retreat to town for healing. Smart move, but too late. The moment they turned to leave, I gave the signal. Over 100 goblins and 200 monsters burst out of the trees from every direction. The injured adventurers tried to break through, but couldn't. They were too beat up from fighting each other. I stayed hidden in the shadows, picking them off one by one with my bow. A cold arrow in the back while they were busy fighting goblins. Rapid shot through the chest when they turned to block. My goblins swarmed anyone who stumbled. The assassin was the toughest. He knocked away my first arrow and killed 2 goblins. But while he was distracted, a goblin stabbed his leg. He screamed and turned to fight it off, and my second arrow punched through his back and out his chest. The goblins piled on, and that was the end of him. One by one, the adventurers fell. Arrows from the dark, goblins from every side. No chance to recover, no chance to escape. When the dust settled, only 3 people were left alive. All women, just like I'd ordered. Kill every male. Keep the females alive. The 3 surviving women were shaking, terrified out of their minds after watching all their teammates die. I rode out on my wolf and ordered the goblins to grab them. They screamed and fought, but it was useless. I walked up and grabbed 2 of their wrists at the same time. They were expecting the worst. Every woman knows what happens when goblins capture you. But instead, they felt warm energy flooding into their bodies, restoring the fighting power they'd used up. Their eyes went wide with confusion. I shot up to level 15 and absorbed 3 new skill orbs. Then I grabbed the 3rd woman and drained her too. Take them back to the nest. Nobody touches them without my order. Break this rule and you die. The goblins obeyed without question. In goblin society, the chief's word is absolute law. All women belong to the chief to distribute. If the chief says don't touch, nobody touches. I checked my new skills while riding. Assassin Technique 3-point Pierce, an advanced version of Pierce that hits 3 vital spots almost simultaneously. Scout Technique Wind Listener, massively boosts hearing for scouting. And Shield Technique Iron Fortress, creates an expanded energy shield. 3 skills in one haul. Not bad. I just wished I could find a female mage somewhere. If I could copy magic, I'd be nearly unstoppable. But as we approached our base, I heard screaming and fighting. I pushed energy into my eyes and looked ahead. The settlement was on fire. Hundreds of adventurers were slaughtering everything inside. The goblins and monsters I'd left behind were already dead. They found us. Move. Now. No point going back for my supplies. 100 adventurers would crush me. I turned my army and ran deeper into the forest, the only safe direction left. But our group was too big and too loud. A squad of scouts in black leather armor spotted us almost immediately. Scouts had sharp senses. They could smell goblins from far away. Look at all these goblins. Charge, they yelled. I sent my monsters to hold them off while I rode away on my wolf. Most fights I could handle, but then I heard laughter behind me. A shadow shot toward me at blinding speed and slashed my wolf with 2 daggers. Blood sprayed everywhere and my mount crashed to the ground, dead in one hit. I rolled off just in time and drew my sword and shield. You're not a beginner, I said, my heart pounding. He laughed. Level 20, actually. Just visiting family in town. Lucky timing. 1 silver per goblin, and chiefs are worth even more. Killing you alone could net me dozens of coins. A level 20 scout. This was bad. He charged. I activated Iron Fortress. Energy poured into my small shield, and expanded it into a wide barrier of light. He wasn't expecting a goblin to use human skills and ran face first into my shield. While he was stunned, I swung my sword and sliced through his clothes. He dodged just barely. Another inch, and I'd have cut him open. "You're using skills?" He was shocked. Then excited. "A special type goblin. The client's real target. If I capture you alive, I'm set for life." He used Shadow Step and appeared behind me instantly, slashing at my head. I used Shadow Step too and flickered away from his blade. Shadow Step, his jaw dropped. "What kind of monster are you?" The level 20 scout and I clashed for dozens of rounds, and he was getting more and more frustrated. I was only level 15, but I had skills from multiple classes: Shadow Step, Stealth Breath, Charge, Pierce, and more. My body flickered in and out of visibility like a ghost. He couldn't pin me down. He was stronger than me in raw power and stamina, but he couldn't land a clean hit. He'd never seen a goblin like me. Most special-type goblins only learn one class. I had 5. He threw everything at me. Basic skills, advanced skills, one after another. I dodged them all, and when he started getting sloppy, I counterattacked. Then I saw my opening. "I'm done playing. Bye." I turned and ran. "Get back here." He was sure I was out of energy, so he chased me at full speed. That's exactly what I wanted. I spun around with a bow that seemed to appear from nowhere and fired rapid shot. 3 arrows straight at him. He barely knocked them away, but the impact split the skin on his hands. Blood ran down his daggers. He hesitated, wondering if the chase was worth it. Then he decided, a goblin this dangerous couldn't be allowed to live. He kept searching but lost sight of me. Just when he was about to give up, a single arrow flew at him from the grass. He slapped it away, laughing. "I knew you were still here." He used Shadow Step at full power and slashed through the grass where the arrow came from. But all he found was an empty bough lying on the ground. No one was there. His survival instinct screamed. He dove forward, but too late. My sword flashed out from a different patch of grass and carved a deep wound across his back. He screamed and stumbled. He smashed 2 smoke bottles on the ground, creating a white cloud to cover his escape. If he could just get out of arrow range, he'd live. 1 arrow cut through the smoke and punched clean through his neck. He collapsed in a pool of blood, choking, unable to believe it. Killed by a level 15 goblin. Outsmarted, outplayed, dead. "Don't flatter yourself," I muttered, looting his body. "Killing you doesn't even give me experience. I can only level up through females. How unfair is that?" But his gear was excellent. 2 high-quality daggers, good leather armor I could resize, and best of all, a spatial backpack. It was a magic item with about 2 cubic meters of compressed space inside. Every adventurer's dream. It was stuffed with supplies and a huge bloody pile of goblin left ears he'd been collecting for the bounty. I kept the ears. Might be useful someday. I stripped him of almost everything. Would have taken his underwear too, but it wouldn't fit. I made a mental note to sew myself some proper undergarments later. Running around with nothing down there was uncomfortable. I packed up and headed deeper into the forest. All my followers were dead or scattered. I needed new partners, stronger female monsters this time. Slimes and rabbits weren't enough anymore. Magic wolves, magic bears, whatever I could find. As long as it was female, it would work. Then the ground shook. A massive shape rose above the treetops ahead of me. A one-eyed giant, 4 or 5 meters tall, holding a spiked club the size of a tree. A cyclops. I didn't even think about fighting. I turned and ran. That thing was way beyond me right now. But it chased me, each step shaking the earth like an earthquake, smashing its club into the ground behind me. The whole forest trembled. The cyclops chased me, each step shaking the whole forest. I was burning through the last of my energy using Shadow Step, and when it ran out, I'd be dead. Then luck saved me. A crowd of adventurers appeared up ahead, drawn by all the noise. They saw the cyclops and went crazy with excitement. Big monsters have magic crystals inside them worth a fortune, and this beginner zone almost never had anything that large. The cyclops was smart enough to know the adventurers were a bigger threat than me. It turned away and charged at them instead, kicking boulders like cannonballs. I used the distraction to escape. I hid behind a tree 2 miles away, gasping for air. My energy was almost completely drained. If anyone found me now, I was finished. Of course, someone found me immediately. A figure burst out of the bushes, and we came face to face. He was carrying a massive 2-handed sword. a greatsword fighter, the kind built for taking down huge monsters. He swung at me and split the tree behind me in half. I barely dodged. His teammates showed up and told him to stop messing around with a goblin and go help fight the Cyclops. He laughed, threw his sword over his shoulder, and ran off toward the giant. That left me surrounded by his 4 teammates. All women. A warrior, a scout, an assassin, and an archer. They were only level 8 or 9, but I had almost no energy left. For against one with empty reserves, I couldn't win a straight fight. The warrior swung her sword at me, not taking me seriously at all. That was her mistake. I rolled under her attack, grabbed her ankle, and held on. Energy rushed from her body into mine. Her legs went weak, and she fell flat on her back, dropping her weapon. 30 points recovered. Enough. I let go and pulled out my spikes. The other 3 charged at me. I activated 3-point pierce, my new assassin skill, and struck all 3 in a flash. They froze, clutching their wounds as blood poured through their fingers. Their fighting energy scattered instantly. I grabbed 2 of their wrists and drained what I could. They were dying, so I only got about 1/10 of the usual amount. But anything was better than nothing. The warrior sat on the ground staring at me in horror, watching her 3 friends bleed out. She couldn't even speak. "And you call yourselves adventurers?" I said, then drove my spike through her throat. No time for mercy. I turned and ran. Behind me, the battle against the Cyclops was raging. Dozens of adventurers were hammering it from every angle. The greatsword fighter had split the Cyclops' wooden club in half and was going blow for blow with its fists, laughing like a maniac. Just when they thought they had the Cyclops beaten, a furious screech came from deep in the forest. A massive vulture, a whirlwind vulture, erupted from the trees and dove at the adventurers. It beat its enormous wings and generated a tornado over 10 meters high that swept through the crowd. People went flying, some getting killed instantly. "It's level 20. We can't handle this," someone screamed. "I can." A figure shot forward and launched a cross slash into the sky. I didn't stick around to watch. I was already running deeper into the forest, leaving the chaos far behind me. The adventurer team, Carlos, Kamaya, and the others, had shown up to fight the Cyclops and the whirlwind vulture. Carlos was furious about losing Theodore and threw himself into the battle. Kamaya danced around the vulture like a ghost, stabbing it with her spikes and vanishing before it could retaliate. I wasn't sticking around to watch. After killing those 4 women, I ran as fast as I could. This place was a death trap with adventurers everywhere. I rounded a tree at full speed and slammed right into someone. We crashed together, tumbled, and fell straight into a deep ravine. We bounced off the rock walls on the way down. I got 2 big bumps on my head and hit the bottom hard. I sat up groaning and realized my hand was pressing against something soft. I looked down and froze. I was sitting on top of a green-haired girl. She was bruised and battered, her robe torn to shreds, her hat gone. But what shocked me wasn't her appearance. It was the energy flowing through my palm into my body. Not warm fighting energy. This was something cooler, fresher. And instead of going to my core, it went straight to my head. This is magic. I could absorb magic power too. My body could take in both fighting energy and magical energy. This was incredible. The girl woke up, found an ugly goblin sitting on top of her with a hand somewhere it shouldn't be, shrieked, and shoved me off. She searched for her staff, but couldn't find it. So she pulled out a small dagger and stared at me with zero expression on her face. This was Trilums, the healing mage from Carlos's team, the one who never showed any emotion. She'd gotten separated from her group, chasing the noise, and crashed right into me. She healed herself first. A magic circle appeared in her palm. She pressed it against her body, and her wounds closed up in seconds. Amazing. I needed her alive. "Give it up, little lady," I laughed. "You're a healer. You can't beat me in a fight." She didn't flinch. Her lips moved in a rapid chant, and she fired green light at me. I used Shadow Step and dodged instantly. Before she could cast again, I closed the gap and kicked her in the stomach. She slammed into the rock wall. She tried to cast another spell, but my dagger was already at her throat. She tried to break free. She'd rather die than be captured by a goblin. So I punched her in the head with a fist full of fighting energy. She went limp, dazed and helpless. She was silently praying to her goddess, sure she was about to suffer the worst fate imaginable. Then she felt something unexpected, pure magical energy flowing into her body, making her stronger. She snapped her eyes open. I was holding her wrist, and magic was passing from me into her. Her permanently blank face actually changed for the first time. Her mouth dropped open in shock. He's a mage too. I didn't care what she thought. I was busy draining her. 2 orbs of light entered my body, 2 healing spells. Cure, which heals internal and external wounds quickly. And Restore, which replenishes stamina and fighting energy. Neither was an attack spell, but I didn't care. With these 2 abilities, I'd never have to worry about injuries again. I could heal myself in the middle of a fight. I could restore my own energy reserves. This changed everything. While the battle raged above, I was at the bottom of the ravine draining Trilim's magic power as fast as I could. She wasn't fighting back. She could feel her own magic growing too. In just a few minutes, her experience bar jumped from 20% to 60%. She was amazed. I went from having 0 magic ability to becoming a level 10 mage in one sitting. I got 2 healing spells, Cure and Restore. I felt incredible, my mind sharper than ever. Trilim's opened her mouth to say something, but I kicked her in the head before she could. She went out cold. You're too valuable to leave behind, I muttered, looking at her unconscious body. But how was I supposed to carry an unconscious woman up a cliff wall? I was still small. Footsteps above. Scouts had found her hat and staff at the edge of the ravine. She must have fallen in. Let's go. They jumped down the walls like acrobats. I vanished using stealth breath and shadow step before they could spot me. Losing Trilim's was disappointing, but getting caught by scouts would be worse. They found her bruised and unconscious. Woke her up with some kind of acid pill, apparently 100 times more sour than vinegar. She spit it out without any reaction at all. Her face didn't even twitch. One of the scouts tried the same pill himself afterward and nearly died from the sourness. They couldn't figure out how she'd shown 0 reaction. That was just Trilim's being Trilim's. She asked about the goblin, but they hadn't seen me. So she healed herself and climbed out to help with the battle. Up top, things had been going badly. Carlos was almost out of energy. Without a healer, the adventurers couldn't recover fast enough. The Cyclops and the Whirlwind Vulture were getting more aggressive. Trilim's fixed that instantly. She drained every bit of her magic into one massive healing spell. A huge green circle rose into the air, and every adventurer inside it healed completely. With everyone back to full strength, they overwhelmed both monsters and killed them. They even found a magic crystal inside the vulture, worth a fortune. Carlos promised to sell it and split the money with everyone. The adventurers celebrated and headed back to Timtown to rest before hunting more goblins. Nobody noticed the short figure in the crowd wearing a cloak, hood pulled low, and a strange mask covering his face. I walked right through the gates of Timtown with them. The adventurers marched out of the forest in high spirits, hauling monster carcasses, herbs, and piles of goblin ears. Villagers lined the road cheering and offering food and water. I was right there among them. I'd put on human leather armor, strapped on that demon-faced mask I'd found days ago, and wrapped myself in a big cloak that covered everything. Nobody could tell what was inside. A little girl spotted me and ran over. "Mommy, look at that tiny adventurer." She grabbed my hand before I could react. The moment she touched me, energy flowed into her. She sat down hard, eyes wide, saying her tummy felt warm. Her mother went crazy with excitement. She thought her daughter had awakened fighting energy. She scooped up the kid and sprinted toward the guild before I could even blink. My heart was pounding. That was way too close. I had 2 reasons for sneaking into town. First, I had a bag full of goblin ears from the dead scout's backpack that I could trade for silver coins, and I needed to buy proper equipment. Second, the forest was a death trap now with hundreds of adventurers hunting every goblin they could find. Staying in there meant certain death. Coming to town was a desperate gamble. When I reached the town gate, a guard blocked my path. He looked down at me with a sneer and demanded I submit to a search. He said I looked suspicious, too short, too covered up. He even joked that I might be a goblin in disguise. He was right, of course, but he didn't actually suspect me. He was just shaking down someone who looked easy to bully. I noticed he let a tall, cloaked adventurer walk right past without a word. I pointed this out. He got angry and raised his spear at me. Then that tall adventurer turned around. He was massive, over 2 meters, built like a bear. He told the guards to back off, called them cowards for picking on someone small, and pointed out that my energy level was above 10 and I was carrying a spatial backpack, something no ordinary adventurer could afford. The guards went pale and started apologizing, practically tripping over themselves to get out of my way. I walked into Tim Town beside my rescuer. We made quite the pair, him towering, me barely reaching his waist, both dressed almost identically. I thanked him with a fist-to-palm bow, a habit from my old life. He didn't recognize the gesture but thought it looked impressive and awkwardly copied it. I excused myself quickly. The less time I spent chatting with humans, the better. One wrong move, and my disguise could fall apart. I needed to find somewhere to sleep tonight, and hit the guild first thing in the morning to cash in those ears. I found a small and tucked away in a quiet alley, far from the main street. Exactly what I needed. No crowds, no attention. The owner was a blonde woman named Martha. She'd been a village beauty in her younger days, but now she ran this tiny inn that barely got any customers. She was so bored she was thinking about closing down. When I walked in, she looked up and saw nobody. Then she looked down and found me, a masked figure shorter than her counter. She jumped a little, but recovered quickly. She'd seen weird adventurers before. 10 copper coins a night, with dinner and a bath. Perfect. I paid and she showed me to a small room on the second floor, just a bed, a table, and a chair. Clean and quiet. Exactly what I wanted. After she left, I locked the door, pulled the curtains, and finally took off the mask and cloak. My ugly green face stared back at me. That nose, way too long. I'd cut it off someday if I could. She called up that the bath was ready. I put my disguise back on, went downstairs, locked the bathroom door, and stripped down. My green body was much more muscular now. 4 abs, thick arms and legs. If only I were taller. I sank into the hot water and felt truly alive for the first time since being born. Every day had been running, fighting, almost dying. This was my first bath ever in this life. Soaking there, something clicked in my mind. All these missions to kill goblins. It had to be my so-called mother behind it all. Princess Avril. She was trying to kill me specifically, and she was powerful enough to mobilize entire kingdoms to do it. Martha brought dinner, bread, some kind of soup, and a small piece of roasted meat. Not what I was used to, but 1,000 times better than raw rabbit. I ate every bite. Martha was thrilled. Apparently nobody ever finished her cooking. She was practically jumping with joy. I told her to prepare the same tomorrow. I slept like a rock that night. First peaceful sleep since being reborn. In the morning, she rushed out with breakfast, beaming. But somehow the food tasted terrible today. Yesterday it seemed fine. What changed? I couldn't swallow it, so I dumped it in the trash when she wasn't looking. She came back, saw the empty plates, and got even more excited thinking I'd loved it again. I told her to use less salt next time, then headed out. Behind me, I heard her tasting the leftovers and muttering, "It's not salty though." I walked to the Adventurers Guild around 10 in the morning. Most adventurers had already left for missions, so the hall was mostly empty, just a few newcomers browsing the job board. The moment I walked in, every eye turned to me. I headed straight for the counter. The problem was, the counter came up to about my forehead. I couldn't even see the receptionist on the other side. Someone burst out laughing. Then the whole hall erupted. Everyone was doubled over, holding their stomachs. They'd never seen an adventurer shorter than the service counter. The whole guild hall was laughing at me. One adventurer ran over and offered to get me a chair so I could reach the counter. Others told me to go home and drink milk. I ignored all of them. The receptionist leaned over the counter to look down at me. She was pretty, and from my angle, I could see way more than she intended. She thought I was some kid playing dress up. "I'm an adventurer. I'm here to collect a bounty," I said in a deep voice. She didn't believe me, so I pulled out my spatial backpack and started dumping bloody cloth bags onto the floor. One after another. The whole hall went dead silent. Every eye locked onto the spatial backpack first. That alone was worth a fortune, something no ordinary adventurer could afford. Then they looked at the bags. Goblin ears. 312. Can you convert them to coins? The receptionist scrambled out from behind the counter, hands shaking. She called over co-workers, and they counted everything with gloves on. Exactly 312. That was 312 silver coins. Nobody was laughing anymore. She asked for my adventurer badge. I didn't have one, so I told her I'd lost it in battle. She gave me a new registration form. I filled it out. Name, Chun Yao, race, human, Age, 18, class, scout. I made up a home address. She didn't care. Adventurers valued their privacy. Then came the part one was nervous about, the level test. I had to put my hand on a crystal gourd. What if it could detect that I was a goblin? My heart was pounding. The counter was too tall, so I had to drag over a chair and climb up. Nobody laughed this time. The gourd lit up. Level 15. Jaws dropped across the room. This tiny person was level 15? The receptionist handed me my new badge and a heavy bag of silver coins. I stored everything in my spatial backpack and turned to leave. 5 adventurers blocked the door. Their leader was a huge berserker, built like an ox. "Those goblin ears are ours," he growled. "Someone stole exactly 312 ears from us. Hand over the money or you're not leaving." I knew he was lying. So did the guild master Vibru, who came downstairs puffing on his pipe. "Do you have any proof?" he asked. "My teammates can vouch for me," the berserker said. "They're your crew. That proves nothing." "Any other evidence?" The berserker grinned. "How about this? Let's fight. If the little guy wins, the ears are his. If he loses, he stole them." Vibru tried to object, but I cut him off. I couldn't afford to waste time here. Every extra minute increased my risk of being exposed. "Deal," I said. Before the berserker could even blink, I was behind him. I climbed up his back, wrapped myself around his neck, and pressed my dagger against his throat. One twitch and his artery would open. Everyone was frozen in shock. The berserker most of all. He could feel my cold blade against his skin and knew that in a real fight, he'd already be dead. "Is that enough proof?" I asked. He nodded, sweat pouring down his face. I pulled my dagger away, flickered through the door, and walked out casually. I could feel his murderous glare on my back. He wasn't done with me. I could tell from his expression. But he wouldn't attack in front of all those witnesses. Guildmaster Vibru watched me leave with a strange look in his eyes. I heard him ask for my registration papers. Not good, but nothing I could do about it now. I headed to a weapon shop to find gear that fit me. Useless trip. Every sword, every set of armor was made for human-sized bodies. The only weapons my size were daggers. I couldn't let anyone measure me for custom armor either, or they'd see my green skin. Then a girl walked into the shop. She had fiery red hair, wore leatherwork clothes, and had a figure that was hard to miss. She pulled a complete set of beautiful silver armor out of a spatial backpack and put it on the counter. The shopkeeper nearly lost his mind. The armor wasn't hand-forged. It was made with alchemy magic. Way better quality than anything a blacksmith could produce. "I'm an alchemist," the girl said with a shy smile. "Still just an apprentice, though. Took me 3 months to make this." The shopkeeper bought it for 200 silver coins and begged her for a long-term supply deal. She turned him down. She was just visiting with her brother and wouldn't be staying. An alchemist. If I could absorb her magic, I could make my own equipment. Any size, any type, whenever I wanted. I had to get close to her. I followed her out. But I noticed the shopkeeper's assistant sneaking out behind her too. That greedy shopkeeper was planning something. Probably wanted to kidnap her and force her to make weapons for him. I could read it on his face. The assistant followed the girl to her inn, climbed a wall, and spotted which room she was staying in. A private courtyard, isolated. Perfect for an ambush. Perfect for me too. I'd wait until tonight. When the shopkeeper's thugs made their move, I'd play the hero, save the girl, and get close enough to absorb her alchemy magic. I went back to Martha's inn. She was excited to see me and insisted on making lunch with less salt this time, just like I'd asked. I told her to leave the room while I ate. I couldn't take off my mask with someone watching. I took one bite. My face scrunched up so hard my eyes crossed. She'd replaced the salt with vinegar or something equally horrible. I spit everything out and dumped it all in the trash. Went back to eating dry wheat cakes from my backpack. Martha knocked again, desperate for feedback. I told her I'd bring the dishes down later and refused to say anything else. She left, disappointed. I put my gear back on, ran downstairs, dropped the plates on the counter, and shot out the door before she could ask another question. I had a rescue to plan. Night fell over Timtown. I hid in the shadows near the alchemist girl's inn, waiting for the shopkeeper's thugs to make their move. Hours passed. Finally, four dark figures slipped over the wall and into her courtyard. They moved quietly, professionals. Minutes later, they came back, carrying a cloth sack with the girl inside. 2 jumped down first. The other 2 tossed the sack from the wall. That's when I struck. Shadow step plus 3-point pierce. The two catching the sack were dead before they even knew something was wrong, spikes straight through their hearts. The other two jumped down and reached for their fallen partners. They felt the warm, sticky blood in the dark and panicked. One of them died next, my spike through his chest. I threw a dagger at the last one's throat, but he was quick enough to knock it away and counterattacked. He stabbed at empty air. He was aiming at where a normal person's upper body would be, but I was only a meter tall. His blade went right over my head. I used charge and slammed into his stomach. He flew backward, hit the ground, and vomited blood. His insides were wrecked. My spike finished him off through the throat. For down. I was breathing hard. It had been tougher than expected. I should have used my bow instead of going close range. Rapid shot from ambush would have dropped 3 instantly. I needed to learn from this. Once I had alchemy magic, I'd make myself a proper bow and full custom gear. I threw the sack over my shoulder and ran back to Martha's inn, dodging 2 patrol teams on the way. Martha was asleep on the counter. I used Shadow Step to slip past without a sound. In my room, I cut the sack open. The red-haired alchemist girl lay there unconscious. Her figure was truly something. In 2 lifetimes, I'd never seen anything like it. I pulled off my glove, exposing my green hand, and grabbed her wrist. Cool magical energy flowed into my body, rushing straight to my head. My magic power surged, climbing almost to level 14 before it slowed and stopped. 2 orbs of light entered my mind. Alchemy, basic magic. Refine, the ability to purify and extract materials. And shape, the ability to mold materials into any form. With these 2 spells, I could make any weapon or armor I wanted, perfectly sized for my body. I was so excited I didn't notice the girl had woken up. She was watching me quietly, trying to figure out what was happening. She remembered being kidnapped by 4 people, but now there was just one short, masked figure holding her wrist, and magic was pouring into her body. She jumped straight to level 10. When the energy stopped, I put my glove back on to hide my skin and started thinking out loud. Should I throw her out or take her back to her inn? Don't throw me away. She sat up in a panic. My heart nearly stopped. When did you wake up? Just now. Please, I can walk back on my own. She started climbing out of bed. Fine, rest a bit first. Leave in the morning, I said, turning to go. I had everything I needed, time to get out of this town. Wait, you're not going to explain anything? I was kidnapped, and now I'm here. What happened? And what was that magic you were putting into me? I just leveled up. Are you a mage? I saved you. That's all you need to know. My name is Lucina. What's yours? I didn't answer. Shadow Step activated, and I vanished into the night. Back at the inn, Martha woke up just in time to see Lucina running out the door. She blinked at the bouncing silhouette disappearing into the dark and rubbed her eyes. Was that 2 lanterns running past? Must be dreaming. That darn cat again. She sighed and wondered when her mysterious short guest would come back. After all, who else would eat her cooking? Lucina made it back to her and safely. Her brother, some golden-haired pretty boy, was there panicking. She told him a mysterious short-masked person had rescued her. He looked suspicious about the whole thing, but was just glad she was okay. I was already long gone. I left Tim Town with my adventurer badge, but I didn't go back to the Croft Forest. That place was a death trap now. Instead, I checked my map and headed for another forest 50 miles away, near a different beginner town. Using Shadow Step, I covered the distance in an hour. I dove straight into the forest and used my night vision and far sight to scout everything around me. I found a cave and ducked inside, only to run right back out when a magic bear charged at me from the darkness. It thought its dinner had delivered itself. Wrong bear. I used Shadow Step, appeared behind it, and stabbed a warrior's sword into its backside. It jumped 3 feet in the air, howling. Before it could recover, I drove my spike through its eye and blasted its brain with fighting energy. Done. I dragged the carcass back into the cave, butchered it, sliced some good cuts, added spices from my pack, and made myself a proper meal for the first time in ages. After eating, I pulled out all my weapons and started practicing alchemy magic. Refine lets me see the composition of materials and strip out impurities. Shape lets me mold anything into whatever form I want. I didn't need to chant spells either. The magic circle just appeared in my hand naturally. Another gift of my unusual body. I tried refining a warrior's sword, turning iron into steel by removing impurities. After 10 minutes of careful work, the sword shattered into pieces. Failed. Alchemy wasn't as easy as I'd thought, but I wasn't discouraged. I kept practicing until all 140 points of magic were used up. Meanwhile, back in the Croft Forest, the slaughter was complete. Every goblin tribe had been wiped out. Dozens of settlements, thousands of goblins, all gone. The adventurers had swept through like a plague. At the guild, Adriana was in a massive underground room watching dozens of workers in waterproof aprons sort through mountains of cleaned goblin ears. They weren't just counting, they were examining each ear closely, searching for something specific. Vibro asked what they were looking for. Adriana shut him down cold. What you need to know, I'll tell you. What you don't need to know, don't ask. After every single ear had been inspected, a worker reported the results. Not a single ear has a golden dragon-shaped birthmark behind it. Adriana's face changed. That was what they'd been hunting for all along. A goblin with a golden dragon birthmark behind its ear. My birthmark. And they hadn't found it, because I wasn't in the Croft Forest anymore. A message arrived by Griffin from the Imperial capital. Princess Avril was demanding daily updates. Every single day, she sent a courier asking if they'd found the one they were looking for. Adriana wrote back, "We've killed every goblin. None had the golden dragon birthmark." Awaiting further instructions, so that was it. My mother wasn't just trying to kill goblins randomly. She was looking for one specific goblin, and the way to identify me was a golden dragon-shaped birthmark behind my ear. I had no idea any of this was happening. I was deep in a new forest, practicing alchemy magic and eating bear meat by firelight. Back in the Star Glory Empire, Princess Avril, my dear mother, was throwing a fit. She slammed her fist on the table, her beautiful face twisted with fury. Useless. They can't even find one goblin. Her maids were shaking with fear. An old advisor in white robes tried to calm her down, suggesting the goblin might already be dead. Avril told him a half-truth. She said the goblin carried some ancient treasure she'd discovered, and she couldn't let her younger sister get it first. The old man bought it and promised secrecy. The only way to identify me was the golden dragon-shaped birthmark behind my ear. But with countless goblins across the continent, how would she ever find me? She was regretting not having me killed properly from the start. Now she was considering using a forbidden blood magic ritual to track me down. It was risky. The magic required enormous power and might attract attention. But she was running out of options. "Take me to the secret chamber," she ordered. I knew nothing about any of this. I didn't even know I had a birthmark behind my ear. I'd been in the Bart Forest for 5 days, holed up in a cave practicing alchemy. After days of failed attempts, shattered swords, crumbled metal, I finally mastered the refined technique. I could strip impurities from metal and produce steel ingots of excellent quality. I wanted to forge myself a full set of armor, but I only had 50 magic points left. Recovery was painfully slow without potions or a mage to absorb from. I needed to find magical creatures in this forest. I dragged the rotting bear carcass outside. The smell attracted slimes almost immediately. Dozens of them swarmed the meat, devouring the rotten flesh. I touched each one, barely any energy gain, but they all submitted to me. I spent half a day sweeping through the forest, killed every male monster, absorbed energy from every female. Horned rabbits, four-eared cats, wolves, my little army grew fast. My fighting energy climbed to level 16. Then I spotted a group of young adventurers coming through the trees. They saw my monster army, and their faces went white. "Run!" their scout yelled, already sprinting away. The others cursed him for being the fastest and scrambled after him. Normally, I wouldn't bother with rookies, but there was a girl in the group. That meant energy. "Get them," I commanded. My horde charged. Dozens of horned rabbits caught up first and knocked the adventurers flat. Then the slimes arrived and pounded them until they were bruised and crying. The girl wasn't hurt. I'd ordered the slimes to just hold her down. I'd taken off my mask and was riding in on a wolf, my true goblin face on full display. Ugly green skin, white fangs, a grin that could curdle milk. The girl saw me coming and completely lost it. Screaming, crying, snot everywhere. Total meltdown. I found a rookie adventurer team, 4 boys and 1 girl, all maybe level 5. My monster army surrounded them in seconds. The boys got pounded by slimes and horned rabbits until they were covered in bruises and couldn't move. The girl was pinned down by slimes, but not hurt. I walked up on my wolf, green face on full display, fangs out, grinning. The boy screamed at me. "Leave Maria alone. Come at me instead." The warrior struggled to break free, but got dragged back down instantly. The girl was crying and shaking, watching my ugly claw reach toward her. Everyone expected the worst. I grabbed her wrist. The screaming stopped. The whole forest went quiet. Everyone was confused. That's not what goblins are supposed to do. Energy flowed into me from her body, and she jumped from level 5 to level 7 in seconds. She stared at me with wide eyes, completely lost. When I let go, she just sat there. She didn't even try to run. For some reason, the goblin face that had disgusted her a minute ago didn't bother her as much anymore. I looked at the 4 boys inside. Too bad you're not all girls. For a brief, dark second, I wondered if there was a way to make them useful. The 4 of them seemed to sense something terrible and stopped struggling, frozen with fear. But no, that was too evil. I wasn't a villain, so I just had them killed. Quick and clean. My monsters swarmed them, and it was over in seconds. The girl screamed watching her friends die, but there was nothing she could do. I threw her over the back of my wolf and brought her to my cave, locking her up in the back. She was terrified, expecting the worst. But I didn't do anything to her. I just locked the door and walked away. She sat there confused. This wasn't what the textbook said goblins did at all. Back at the local adventurer guild, the secretary, a woman named Olivia, was getting worried. The rookie team hadn't returned by the time the gates were closing. She'd already sent someone to search. The searcher came back pulling a cart. On it were 4 skeletons picked clean by monsters. Their belongings confirmed who they were. Olivia collapsed to the ground. She'd personally trained those kids. But there were only 4 bodies. The 5th member, the girl, was missing. Guild Master Ballard ordered an emergency search mission posted immediately. But it was nighttime, the reward was low, and nobody volunteered. Adventurers didn't go into the forest at night. Olivia stood up, eyes burning. "I'll go myself." Ballard tried to stop her. She'd been desk-bound for years. But she was already changing into her old combat gear. A rapier at her hip. She was a quicksword fighter, and despite the years off, her level and experience hadn't gone anywhere. She ran out of the guild and straight into the dark forest alone. Meanwhile, outside my cave, a black panther had been stalking the area. It smelled something interesting: fire, meat, a gathering of creatures. It crept through the grass and peeked out to find my campfire surrounded by a whole army of monsters, all sitting peacefully together. I was sitting by the campfire, seasoning some meat and roasting it over the flames, surrounded by my army of small monsters. The smell was incredible. Then a black panther appeared on a boulder and roared, trying to scare everyone away. It was one of the top predators in the Bart forest. But not a single one of my monsters moved. They all just stared at it. The panther roared again. Nothing. I stood up and pointed at it. "Hey, are you male or female?" The panther's brain short-circuited. Before it could process the question, I was already charging straight at it. It couldn't believe a goblin would attack a forest predator head-on. I ducked under its stone perch, glanced between its hind legs, female, and jumped on its back. It swiped at me, but hit nothing. I was already sitting on top of it. The panther was furious. Then it froze. Magic energy was flowing from my body into hers, flooding every part of her. She went completely still. This wasn't a fighting energy creature. It was a magic panther. And the energy exchange worked both ways. My magic power shot up to level 15. When it was over, I jumped off. The panther stared at me, stunned. "Your magic got stronger too, right? Follow me, and I'll boost you every day. Deal?" Her head bobbed up and down like a chicken pecking grain. Monsters had almost no way to increase their magic power naturally. I'd just given her a free level up with one touch. Of course she agreed. We all sat around the fire eating roasted meat and drinking the cheap ale I'd bought in town. The panther swallowed half the roast in one bite. The little monsters waited impatiently for scraps. Even the slimes got the bones. What I didn't know was that someone was watching from the darkness. A woman named Olivia, the guild secretary from the local adventurer guild, had come alone into the forest at night to rescue the girl I'd captured, Maria. She'd followed the trail straight to my camp. She couldn't believe what she was seeing. Monsters sitting peacefully around a campfire, eating roasted meat like civilized beings. She rubbed her eyes and looked again. Still the same scene. She spotted the cave behind us and guessed Maria was inside. While we were busy eating, She crept around the edge and slipped in without making a sound. Deep inside, she found Maria chained up but unharmed, clothes intact, no injuries, no signs of abuse. Have these goblins changed their ways? Olivia muttered, confused. Normally, women captured by goblins suffered horribly. This was completely different. She picked the lock with a set of universal keys, freed Maria, and tried to sneak out. But the campfire had gone dark. That was my signal. I'd noticed something was off. My night vision and enhanced hearing had caught the intruder. Since you're here, why not stay? I laughed from the shadows. Get them! My monsters charged from every direction. In the dark, they had the advantage. Olivia cursed and drew her rapier. She was a quicksword fighter, and even after years behind a desk, her skill was terrifying. Her blade moved like rain, dozens of thrusts per second. Every monster that got close went numb and collapsed instantly. She carved through my front line like it was nothing. I watched with my mouth hanging open. That technique, whatever it was, I had to have it. I couldn't beat this woman head-on. She was way too strong. I ordered the panther to help, but she took one look at the woman's fighting style and said she was at least level 20. Maybe higher. While we were talking, Olivia was already cutting through my monsters like paper, dragging Maria behind her. Bodies everywhere. I couldn't let them escape. I activated Shadow Step and Stealth Breath together, appeared at Olivia's side, and stabbed at 3 vital points. She spun her rapier and blocked all 3 strikes without even looking. Incredible reflexes. I pulled back, grabbed a crossbow from my spatial backpack, and fired. She deflected the bolt. Then I switched to charge and slammed into her with my shield like a cannonball. She flew backward, coughing. She'd protected her vitals with energy at the last second, but the hit still rattled her. Before she could recover, I swung a horizontal slash at her head. She bent backward at the waist. The blade passed so close it cut off a strand of her hair. I pressed the attack. Sword swings, one after another. She was blocking everything but couldn't counterattack. For a moment I thought I had her. Then she smiled. My stamina was fading. I'd used too many skills and burned through half my energy. She was level 25. Her reserves dwarfed mine. She unleashed Sword Rain. Dozens of thrusts in a single second. My wooden shield exploded into splinters. Her blade found me over and over. My upper body was shredded, blood everywhere. When the technique ended, I was on my knees, torn apart. She started charging her next skill. A glowing rapier pointed straight at me. One more strike, and I'd be dust. She thought it was over. I wanted her to think that. At the last possible moment, I smiled. 2 green magic circles appeared in my hands. I slammed them onto my own body. Cure and Restore activated simultaneously. Every wound sealed shut in an instant. Full recovery. Her eyes went wide with horror. I used Shadow Step, vanished, and reappeared behind her. My spike drove into her back before she could turn around. I pulled it out and disappeared again, keeping my distance. She collapsed, bleeding badly, staring at me in disbelief. You can use magic too? That's impossible. The panther had already pinned Maria down. The girl was too terrified to even remember she was an adventurer. Why are you standing so far away? The panther asked. She's finished. Humans are cunning, I said. Especially when they're cornered. She's faking how weak she is. We wait until she actually passes out from blood loss. Olivia cursed silently. She'd been planning exactly that. Pretend to collapse. Wait for me to come close. Then strike with everything she had left. This goblin had read her perfectly. Her vision was getting blurry. Blood kept pouring out. She was running out of time. So she made her move. She leaped into the air using a quicksword technique called Swallow Flight, trying to escape over the treetops. Called it, I said, pulling my bow from the spatial backpack. 3 arrows. Rapid shot. They chased her through the air. She was wounded, slow, midair with nowhere to dodge. She hadn't expected a goblin to also be an archer. It's over. 3 wet thuds. Olivia crashed down from the sky and hit the ground, unconscious. No fight left in her. Bring her back, I ordered, grinning. My monsters dragged her over. The panther was drooling. Is she my dinner? High-level adventurers are the tastiest. She's not food. I need her. She's practically dead. What use is a corpse? The panther was genuinely upset about losing a meal. I pulled iron chains from my spatial backpack, wrapped Olivia up tight, then cast Cure on her. Her wounds sealed shut, and she woke up gasping. The panther watched its dinner come back to life, and sulked. I had Olivia dragged into the cave. She was furious, screaming and thrashing, but she'd lost too much blood to break free. When she saw my ugly goblin face coming closer, big nose, bulging eyes, white fangs, she was terrified. Maria, on the other hand, was calmer this time. She'd been through this before and noticed I hadn't actually hurt her. All I'd done was grab her wrist. Just wrist grabbing, she told herself. That can't get you pregnant, right? I grabbed Olivia's wrist. She stared in shock as fighting energy poured into her body. A bottleneck she'd been stuck at for years suddenly cracked open. Level 26. Just like that. Her brain stopped working. She looked at my hideous face, and somehow, it didn't seem as ugly anymore. What was happening to her? Meanwhile, I was absorbing like crazy. Olivia was level 25, the highest I'd ever drained. Energy flooded through me, and I jumped 3 levels at once, hitting 19. I grew taller too, over 1.3 meters now, muscles clearly defined. I also picked up 2 quicksword basic techniques from her. I didn't get her powerful piercing sun skill yet, but that was fine. I could drain her again tomorrow. And the day after that. No rush. Back at the guild, the old Master Ballard spent the whole night pacing at the town gates, waiting for Olivia. She was level 25. What could possibly go wrong in a beginner zone? But morning came, and she still wasn't back. A red-haired young man, named Will, showed up at the gates, carrying a greatsword. Level 23. He told Ballard he wasn't here to hunt. He'd taken a special mission from the kingdom's main guild headquarters. They were investigating a strange goblin, and many more adventurers were on their way. Hundreds of them, all level 10 and above, with plenty of level 20s. I had no idea any of this was happening. Over the following days, I kept working. I swept through the Bart Forest collecting female monsters, dozens of magic wolves, 4 or 5 magic bears. My fighting energy climbed to level 20. I'd grown to 1.4 meters, covered in muscle, radiating a pressure that made even the larger beasts flinch. I was still short, but something about me felt massive. I'd also gathered several hundred goblins who worshipped me like a god. They'd never seen a goblin with actual muscles before. They waved their weapons and howled with excitement, spraying spit everywhere. Even I was disgusted by them. But they were my people now, and starting today, I was going to train them properly. They couldn't keep being useless cannon fodder forever. Outside the cave, my goblins were drilling with spears and swords. They didn't want to cooperate at first, but after the panther ate a few of them, the rest got very motivated. Inside, I sat down to forge equipment. My magic had fully recovered overnight, plus the panther let me siphon a little each day. Time to finally make myself proper gear. I started melting down weapons, including Olivia's rapier. She went absolutely insane. Stop. Don't melt my sword. You filthy, disgusting goblin. I'll kill you. I couldn't concentrate with all the screaming. I stood up and walked toward her with my claws out. She shrieked in terror. Then I grabbed her wrist and drained her again. Her level went up another half, and I pulled out a new skill, Orb, Piercing Sun, the powerful quicksword technique she'd nearly killed me with. Finally, a real offensive skill. After the energy faded, I went back to forging. Using refine and shape, I turned the melted steel and other materials into high-quality alloy. Olivia's sword had been excellent steel to begin with. Combined with everything else, the result was far better than ordinary iron. Alchemy was exhausting. Every detail, every element had to be perfect or the whole thing failed. But after days of practice, I could handle simple work. I made myself a full set. Light armor covering vital areas, 2 daggers, 2 spikes, a shield, a warrior's sword, and most importantly, a short bow perfectly sized for my body. Short but powerful, with no loss in range or hitting power. Then, just to annoy Olivia, I forged a beautiful rapier from the leftover materials. I put extra effort into it, elegant patterns, silver and gold accents, a blade that glowed with cold light. I waved it in front of her face. She looked ready to murder me, but she also couldn't take her eyes off it. It was gorgeous, and as an alchemist-forged weapon, it was far superior to any handcrafted blade. That was payback for stabbing me dozens of times yesterday. Maria was only level 5 or 6. I could barely get anything from her anymore. But a mosquito's leg is still meat. Olivia tried threatening me. Let us go or you'll regret it. And then what? I asked. Give me that rapier and I'll let you live. Deal? Right. Like you'd spare a goblin, I walked out with the sword. Wait. Come back. We can negotiate. Inside the cave, Olivia turned to Maria. You feel it too, don't you? Maria tried to play dumb. Don't lie. Your face gives it away, Olivia said. He's pushing fighting energy into us while absorbing from us at the same time. Do you know what's going on? No idea, Maria said with a bitter smile. If even someone as experienced as you hasn't heard of it, how would I know? But they both understood one thing. Whatever this goblin was doing, it was making them stronger at an incredible speed. If they could use this every day, their levels would skyrocket. They looked at each other, both thinking the same thing, but neither saying it out loud. My goblins were shaping up nicely. Hundreds of them drilling with swords and shields, wolf cavalry practicing formations. Not bad for a bunch of ugly green runts. I reviewed my full skill set while training in a clearing. Warrior skills, charge, horizontal slash. Archer skills, rapid shot, far sight. Scout, shadow step. Assassin, pierce, stealth breath, 3-point pierce. Quick sword, sword rain, rain screen. Piercing Sunday, healing magic, cure, restore. Alchemy magic, refine, shape. Piercing sun was my new trump card, devastating against large targets. I drilled it over and over. Then one of my scout crows landed on my arm with bad news. Chief, there are tons of adventurers in the forest. They're killing everything, like they're searching for something. I'd been found. Again, I used shadow step to get to a treetop and peered through the leaves. A 5-person adventurer squad was moving through the forest in tight formation. All level 15 at least. A warrior, archer, scout, greatsword fighter, and fist fighter. Way too strong for this beginner zone. The kingdom's main guild had posted a bounty on me. 100 silver coins just for information. 1,000 for my corpse. Adventurers were pouring in from everywhere. But I wasn't running this time. I was level 20 now. 5 level 15s. I could take them. I grinned and disappeared. They were well organized, moving cautiously, watching every direction. Their scout heard something first. Get down. 3 of my arrows whistled over their heads. They panicked. Someone was attacking them, and they assumed it was a rival adventurer team. Their scout climbed a tree to listen. Their archer used far sight to scan. I circled them at high speed, staying invisible with stealth breath. Their scout called out my direction. The archer fired rapid shot, 3 arrows. I dodged them all with a flicker. He vanished. It's an assassin or scout. I was already closing in. The scout tried to track me by sound, calling out my position. The archer prepared to fire again, but I shot first, 3 arrows at him. He lost the initiative and had to dodge instead. While they focused on the arrows, I appeared right next to the archer, a spike aimed at his throat. He rolled at the last second, and my spike grazed his ear, drawing a thin line of blood. I struck again. The fist fighter saved him with a massive punch that sent a shockwave through the air. I flickered away before it connected. Did anyone see what it was? The warrior demanded. Just a shadow. Too fast to identify. They thought they were fighting a team, an assassin and an archer working together. They didn't realize it was just me switching between skill sets. I came back for the archer again. The warrior used charge to intercept, blocking my spike with a clang. But I spun away, and a bow appeared in my hands. I fired 3 arrows straight up at the scout in the tree. Nobody expected the assassin to suddenly become an archer. The scout heard the arrows and threw himself backward off the branch. He dodged too, twisted in midair, and landed smoothly on the ground. Impressive. Then the 3rd arrow punched through his arm. He screamed. I was already charging toward him. My shadow step at level 20 was blindingly fast. I appeared in front of the scout before he could blink. He wasn't going down easy, though. He pulled his dagger with his good arm and fought back. When I flickered behind him, he used shadow step too. We became 2 blurs circling each other around a tree, trading over a dozen strikes in seconds. When we both stopped moving, the scout was covered in bloody holes. He stared at his wounds in disbelief. An assassin, who also used shadow step? That was the last thing he ever figured out. The greatsword fighter roared and launched himself into the air, coming down like a meteor. His blade cratered the ground with a deafening boom. If I'd been a step slower, I would have been flattened. Then the warrior charged at me with charge. Point blank, no time to dodge. But instead of running, I pulled out my own shield and sword and used charge right back at him. We collided head-on. His shield shattered into pieces, and he flew backward, smashing through 2 trees before stopping. Done. That's when it clicked for all of them. There was no team attacking them. It was just me, one goblin using every class's skills. 3 of them were still standing. The fist fighter, the greatsword fighter, and the archer hiding in the back. The warrior dragged himself up too, refusing to quit. They realized I was the bounty target, 1,000 silver coins for my corpse. They came at me together. The greatsword fighter and fist fighter attacked from the front, smashing the ground and punching shockwaves. The warrior flanked me. The archer waited for an opening. I had to admit I'd underestimated them. Their teamwork was tight. The 2 tanks kept me pinned while the archer watched for any gap. 1 arrow caught me in the side, blood everywhere. Time to change tactics. I needed to eliminate the archer and warrior first, then handle the tanks at range. I slammed the greatsword fighter away with charge, fired horizontal slash at the fist fighter to buy space, and sprinted straight at the warrior. He turned and ran. He knew he couldn't take me. The archer saw my back and fired rapid shot. 3 arrows streaking toward me. Perfect. At the last possible second, I used shadow step and vanished. The archer's own arrows flew straight into the warrior. Watch where you're shooting. The warrior screamed, coughing blood. While the archer was still processing what happened, I appeared right beside him with my bow drawn. 3 arrows, point blank. He didn't even have time to curse properly. Dead. 2.5 left, I laughed. I spun and aimed at the warrior. He screamed for help. The greatsword fighter dropped from the sky and blocked my arrows with his massive blade. But while he was protecting the warrior, I was already firing at the fist fighter. He punched the arrows out of the air, but was getting more frustrated by the second. They had no ranged attack anymore. The warrior was useless. Their only option was to charge straight at me through a hail of arrows and hope they could close the distance before their energy ran out. I kept retreating, firing arrows to wear down the fist fighter. He was strong but slow, no chance of catching me with shadow step. I let him get ahead of his teammates on purpose, pulling him further and further from backup. Then I spun around. My bow became a rapier. Fighting energy surged from my core into the blade. The fist fighter thought I was out of gas. He charged in grinning and threw a punch. I didn't dodge. Sword rang. A storm of blade light crashed down on him. When it was over, he was shredded everywhere except where his gauntlets covered. Blood poured from dozens of wounds. You know sword rain too, he screamed, turning to run. Too slow. I flickered behind him, drove my rapier through his back and out his chest. Then I appeared in front of him and slashed his throat. He dropped to his knees, clutching his neck, blood spraying through his fingers. The greatsword fighter and the crippled warrior saw it happen and completely lost their nerve. They turned and ran without a word. I calmly switched to my bow and fired 2 volleys of rapid shot at their backs. The greatsword fighter spun to deflect the arrows and found me already standing in his blind spot, rapier glowing with energy. Piercing Sunday. The beam of light punched clean through his massive body. He screamed and collapsed. The warrior fell to his knees and begged. Spare me. I'll give you everything. I looked at him coldly. If I kill you, everything's mine anyway. 1 thrust through the throat. Done. I looted all 5 bodies and headed back to camp. 5 against 1, all level 15, and I'd taken them apart. Now I knew exactly where I stood. At level 20 with multi-class skills, a squad of 15s was no problem. I threw the gear to my goblins. Starting tomorrow, we go on the offensive. We hunt the adventurers. Every monster in camp went wild with excitement. For the first time ever, the prey was becoming the predator. Back at the Bartown Guild, Master Ballard was worried sick. Hundreds of high-level adventurers were flooding his beginner zone and destroying everything. Plus Olivia still hadn't come back. Then Carliel, the Kingdom Guild secretary, showed up again. She told him the mission came from the Star Glory Empire itself. They couldn't refuse. The beginner zone would be rebuilt afterward. Ballard asked what was so important. Carliel said they'd been told this goblin was a special type that a divine oracle had predicted would become a catastrophic threat to humanity. The bounty was 1,000 silver coins. Every adventurer under level 20 had come running, and even some above that. Then the door opened one more time. The golden-haired beauty from before, Adriana, walked in. I'm going into the Bart Forest personally. This time, failure is not an option. Carliel tried to object. Adriana was an Imperial VIP, too important to risk. Adriana smiled. Magical energy erupted from her body. Glowing magic circles appeared above her head, one after another, sliding behind her back like a crown of light. She's a level 30 light mage, Carlyle whispered. Both she and Ballard stood there, completely stunned. A level 30 mage was coming after me personally. The Bart forest was crawling with adventurers, hundreds of them, treating the place like a playground. They were killing everything in sight, not just goblins, but every small monster they could find. Some brought trainees along since they'd never normally get access to a beginner zone. Slimes, four-eared cats, horned rabbits, wiped out by the dozens with a single swing. But today the hunters became the hunted. I set up an ambush in a valley. My goblins and small monsters attacked a 10-person squad first, drawing them in. While they laughed and slaughtered the easy targets, my goblin archers unleashed a rain of arrows from the trees. Their shield bearer blocked everything with Iron Fortress. They thought it was just goblins. Time to switch from killing slimes to killing goblins for fun. They split up to flank my archers. That's when I stepped out. A warrior came at me without even using a skill, laughing, sword aimed at my head. I used charge and hit him like a cannonball. He flew through the air spraying blood, hit the ground, and died. My goblins swarmed out of the grass, stripped him bare, cut off his head, and dragged the body away for food. I flickered to the shield bearer next. He heard me coming and spun his shield around, but my rapier slipped through a gap and pierced his body. One more thrust through the throat. Done. Deep in the trees, my trained goblins had the remaining 3 surrounded. These weren't the useless goblins from before. They had archers in the back, shield bearers in front, working in real formations. The adventurers were stunned that goblins could actually coordinate. The greatsword fighter smashed a crater in the ground and sent a dozen goblins flying. The thief and assassin charged through the gap, cutting down more of my soldiers. Then my arrows arrived from the shadows. 3-point rapid shot. They deflected them, confused about who was sniping them. I stepped out with sword and shield. The thief came at me smirking, a goblin with a sword. How cute. He lunged at my throat. I used Shadow Step, dodged his blade, and cut his arm clean off with one swing. His head followed a second later. The assassin froze in shock. My goblins swarmed him from every side. I put an arrow through his calf. He dropped to one knee. A goblin smashed a spiked club into his skull. My soldiers finished the rest. The greatsword fighter was the last one standing. He used Whirlwind Slash, spinning with his massive blade, clearing everything around him. But at level 10, he couldn't control it. When the spin ended, his own momentum flung the sword out of his hands, and it stuck in a tree. Without his weapon, he was helpless. My goblins tore him apart. Long live the chief, they cheered. I told them to clean up fast, rest for an hour, and move on. They ate the adventurer's remains right there. Disgusting, but I didn't stop them. I just walked away and used healing magic to recover my energy. An hour later, we found another squad. This one was even weaker. I didn't even need the goblins. I went in alone and cut through all of them in seconds. They died without understanding how a single goblin could use warrior charges, archer volleys, assassin strikes, and scout movement all in the same fight. Today, everything had changed. We weren't the prey anymore. Word was spreading among the adventurers that squads were disappearing in the forest without a trace. That's what happens when I'm hunting. I was sitting on a wolf, directing my goblins and monsters as they surrounded a weak adventurer team. Level 7 or 8. One was only 5. I didn't even need to fight. Good training exercise for my troops. Then I felt something wrong. A gut feeling. There you are. Die. 2 blade lights came screaming at me. Cross slash. The advanced version of horizontal slash. I recognized the style instantly. It was Carlos, my old friend from the Croft Forest. His whole team was here. They'd even recruited a replacement, a female greatsword fighter named Mina, level 18. She didn't believe a goblin could be dangerous. She'd learn. But Carlos was my target. Last time we fought, I was level 12 and had to run. Now I was 20, same level as him. Let me show you what I've become, I muttered. I dodged his cross slash and charged straight at him with Shadow Step. Our blades clashed again and again. He was shocked. I wasn't falling behind at all. Last time I'd been nothing. Now I was matching him blow for blow. Don't get cocky, he roared. He chained charge into cross slash, a combo attack. I dodged the charge, but the follow-up cross slash caught me across the side. Blood poured out. So that's what combo skills look like, I noted, backing off. Carlos grinned. You're wounded. You're dead today. He charged in for the kill. But I smiled, raised my hand, and a green healing circle appeared. My wound sealed shut in a second. Then my rapier appeared from the spatial backpack. Your turn. Sword rain. A storm of thrusts rained down on his shield. Each hit sent shockwaves through his arms. A level 20 warrior, getting pushed back by a goblin. His face was turning purple with rage and disbelief. The moment my barrage stopped, he lowered his shield to counterattack with cross slash. That's exactly what I was waiting for. I was already in piercing sun stance. My rapier blazed with concentrated energy, forming a massive lance of light. It punched straight through his shield, shattering it into pieces, and drove clean through his body. Carlos screamed. Blood erupted from the hole in his chest. He stared at the sky, eyes wide, unable to accept it. This isn't possible. He fell backward and died. The leader of the squad, a level 20 warrior, the strongest fighter they had, dead at my feet. A shriek from nearby. Kamaya had seen everything. Her face was white, her body shaking. For a second I saw her legs tense. She wanted to run. Then rage won. I'll avenge him. Die. She screamed to alert her teammates and lunged at me. I switched to my bow and fired rapid shot, then moved at the same speed as my arrows. She used stealth breath to dodge the arrows, but I was already beside her. Sword rang. She had no time to dodge. 7 or 8 thrusts found their mark. None fatal, but blood everywhere. She collapsed to the ground with a cry. Kamaya lay on the ground, bleeding and terrified. She couldn't believe how much stronger I'd gotten in just a few days. She hadn't lasted a single exchange. I grabbed her wrist. She tensed. Then her expression shifted through confusion, realization, and finally shock. The warm energy flowed between us again. She jumped to level 22. I didn't gain a full level, but that was fine. She was more useful alive. I punched her in the forehead. She went out cold. Tie her up. Take her to the cave. Nobody touches her. Now for the others. I used Farsight and quickly found Trilums and a new face. A tall woman with a greatsword. That must be their replacement. But where was the archer, Ronald? I had to kill him first. Archers were the most dangerous at range. I found him scanning the forest from a vantage point. He spotted me at the same moment. There you are. He fired immediately, but smartly didn't burn skills. He wanted to stall until his teammates arrived. Too bad for him. His teammates were already dead or captured. I blocked his arrows with my shield, then used charge to close the distance in an instant. My sword blazed with energy. He tried to dodge and pull back, but archers are slow in close combat. My blade chased him relentlessly, every strike aimed at a vital point. He screamed for help. Everyone, over here. The goblin's here. I smiled, knocked his bow out of his hands, then charged again and sent him crashing into a tree. Blood poured from his mouth. It's over. My sword went through his heart. He grabbed the blade with both hands, eyes wide, dying with a look of absolute disbelief. He'd spent years reaching level 20. For what? I wiped the blood off my sword and turned to leave, but 2 figures were already running toward me. They'd heard Ronald's cry, but arrived too late. They saw his body and froze. Trilums, the healer, and Mina, the new greatsword fighter, level 18, 1.89 meters tall, built like a warrior goddess. Mina screamed and launched herself at me, leaping high and bringing her massive sword crashing down. Trilums tried to support from range, firing purification magic at me. I didn't know what that spell did, but I wasn't about to find out. If it could strip my energy or magic, I'd be finished. I dodged and fired rapid shot at Trilums. She tried to hide behind a tree, but caught an arrow through the calf. She fell, biting down on a bone from her pack to keep from screaming. Face still blank as ever. She pulled the arrow out herself, healed the wound, and collapsed in a pool of sweat. Meanwhile, Mina was going all out, technique after technique, her greatsword shaking the ground with every swing. She was way better than the level 10 greatsword fighter I'd killed before. Experienced, fluid, powerful. But I wasn't fighting back. I was letting her burn through her energy. She was the reckless type. Pure offense, no pacing. I dodged everything, waiting. After 10 skills, she suddenly felt it. Her core was empty. The color drained from her face. Now it was my turn. I grinned at Mina. Weren't you tough a minute ago? Come on. Keep going. She cursed me and swung her greatsword again, but without energy behind it. She was just waving heavy metal. I dodged and punched her in the stomach, hard, with fighting energy. She screamed, stumbled backward, and the weight of her own sword pulled her down onto her rear. "And you call yourself a level 18 adventurer?" I laughed, walking up to her with a dagger, waving it near her throat. She suddenly realized what goblins do to captured women. Terror replaced anger. She scrambled backward, shaking. I put on my ugliest grin, fangs hanging out, then lunged forward and grabbed her wrist. She was completely confused. A goblin grabbing her wrist? That's not what she'd expected at all. Energy flooded into her. Her empty core filled right back up. She stared at me like I was an alien. "Let her go." Trilums appeared behind me, staff raised, spell ready, face as blank as ever. I ignored her completely, which made her even more nervous. "Healers have attack spells too," she warned. "There's one called Rampant Growth. It makes bones sprout spikes that pierce through your own body from the inside. I don't usually use it because it's too cruel. But I will. Sounds interesting. Show me. You're not afraid to die?" I could tell she didn't actually want to kill me. She'd felt the magic boost from last time. She wanted to capture me alive and study me. But she'd do it if pushed. I finished draining Mina, stood up, and walked slowly toward Trilums. "One more step and I'll kill you," she said flatly. I spread my arms wide, hands empty. "Go ahead. I won't fight back." She hesitated. That told me everything. "You don't want to kill me," I said. "You could have attacked while I was distracted. You didn't. You want what I can give you. I want to capture you for research. To study how you boost magical power. Interesting. But don't you think we're a bit too close now?" Her eyes went wide. She started casting, but I was already moving. "Charge." I hit her like a cannonball. She flew into a tree, coughing blood from every opening. She was dying. I walked over calmly and cast Cure. Green light covered her body, and her wounds started healing. It took 2 casts to bring her back fully. She'd been hurt badly. Then I chained her up with iron shackles, same as the others. My goblins cheered and showered me with praise as I had all the prisoners dragged back to the cave. My collection was growing impressive. Olivia, level 25 quicksword fighter. Trilums, level 20 healer mage. Kamaya, level 21 assassin. Mina, level 18 greatsword fighter. And little Maria, the beginner. "Now," I said, looking at them all chained up in a row. "Let's begin." I went straight for Trilum's wrist. She tried to pull away but couldn't move in the chains. Magic power surged between us. Her reserves filled to the brim. My magic level broke through to 16, and another glowing orb entered my mind. I opened it up to see what new spell I'd gained. News of my kills had spread through the Bart Forest. High-level adventurers dying, whole squads vanishing. It was all over town. The guild posted a list of the dead and missing. When people saw names like Carlos, Ronald, Trilums, Kamaya, and Mina, all level 20 fighters, panic set in. The beginners fled to other towns. Guild Master Ballard was relieved but heartbroken, knowing most would never come back. "Why did that goblin have to come to MY Zone?" he groaned. Up on a mountain overlooking the forest, Adriana was studying a map covered in red dots marking every attack site. She drew a big circle around one area. "He's hiding somewhere in here. He's gotten strong enough to kill level 20 adventurers." "What kind of freak is he?" Her bodyguard captain, Robble, assured her they were ready. She'd brought 60 elite soldiers, all level 15 or above, several at 20, plus 4 mages. And she herself was a level 30 light mage. They'd sweep inward from all sides, killing every monster first to strip away my army, then close in on me. I woke that morning with a bad feeling in my gut. I immediately sent Gobishi to dispatch scouts in every direction. My 5 prisoners watched from their chains as my goblins moved with military precision, proper salutes, organized formations. Olivia couldn't believe it. "What kind of freak are you? You're building a goblin kingdom." I grinned and walked toward them. They all flinched, not because they were scared of being hurt, but because they'd started looking forward to the energy transfer. They were getting addicted to leveling up fast. They hated that they were starting to find my ugly face. Not so ugly anymore. "You know what I want," I said, grabbing wrists. An hour later, magic power at level 18, fighting energy at level 23. New skills acquired, whirlwind slash from the greatsword fighter, and rampant growth from trilomes. That healing spell was terrifying. It made bones inside the target's body sprout spikes that pierced through their organs from within. So much for healers being harmless. Then Gobishi came running back, face white with panic. "Chief, all our scouts are dead. Human adventurers killed every one of them. My instincts had been right. They'd found me.